I had kind of an interesting memory resurface yesterday. Oh man, is this guy gonna be hammering the whole fucking time? There's like a guy like literally working out this window right here, like on this roof. I don't know what he's doing. Is that, oh god, is that gonna be in the audio of the whole fucking thing? We'll just ignore it, whatever. That's my process. Embrace everything. Just let it all happen. Which is that it's Pride weekend, and I realized that the first time I was ever in New York City was Pride weekend, because the first celebrity I ever saw, at least in New York, I had met Al Franken. Well, no, this was before I met Al Franken, I think. Yeah, this is the first celebrity I ever saw in my life. Came to New York, and I really wanted to see P. Diddy, and anyway, we were on Fifth Avenue, I think somewhere near the Cathedral, because that's where they do parades and whatnot, St. Patrick's Day parade, and it was the Pride Parade. And I was 19, I guess. My friend had driven us. We'd driven in his Subaru WRX. This guy who later became my boss, and we'd work in New York. So it was kind of an interesting exploratory mission. He had been as a child because his family would come for like shopping and shit, because they were kind of wealthy or what. They're like money people. They're exactly everything that I'm complaining about constantly. They trade stocks and stuff. So anyway, he had enough money that we could go. That was the only way I could get to New York, really. So we drove in his WRX. We had this fucking laptop. We brought this thing that like plug it into your cigarette lighter thing back when cars had that. Now it's just like a 12-volt outlet or whatever, but it used to be a cigarette lighter. And it converted to like a fucking, power strip. So we plugged in his laptop. We're driving through Pennsylvania. This is the first time I've ever done this. We're watching C-Lab 2021. Ironic, considering now we're living C-Lab 2021. But anyway, so we go to New York. 19-year-old. This was right after my freshman year of college. And we're on Fifth Avenue, and we see the MC or whatever, the head marshal, I guess, of the Pride Parade is Carson Kressley from Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. The original, which was on Bravo, back before Bravo became sort of like, I don't know, a version of NBC, now what, Bravo's like the Andy Cohen, it's still there, it's still going strong, they've still got. This was before America's Top Model, I think. Queer Eye. I used to watch it in college with my girlfriend. We watched it every week. Considering at that time that was sort of, the beginning of the metrosexual era, which I would say kind of defined I don't know, just the grooming habits and kind of the demeanor and the neutered, ineffective sexuality of men my age. Well, I don't know. Well, also just like the cities. The cities became, the Village is metro. It's no longer like a queer or a gay neighborhood in the same way. It's like the dudes, they'd be given makeovers on that show. These kind of jockey guys that don't have any style. It's like that whole generation of men that use like Crew hair products so they could look like Carson Daly or whatever. So Carson Kressley was the Grand Marshal of the Pride Parade. And I was a fan. I was a fan of the show. I guess they've done a reboot. I haven't seen the reboot, but that shows. Yeah, I don't know just how fast and how quickly the reboot culture and how important branding is. Queer. I think it's interesting they call it Queer Eye. You know, particularly because this word has become sort of part of the zeitgeist and being appropriated or co-opted, but also kind of mainstreamed and empowered in a way that's good. Queer eye for the straight. It's not gay eye. It's not. It doesn't. It doesn't. Even though the show is explicitly gay men, sort of providing, because the cliche being they have style, they know how to dress, they know how to do hair, they know how to decorate, they know how to get these slobs, these slobby white guys to pull themselves together to get their hair kind of shaped up, get some clothes that actually fit. Like me, I would be probably a good candidate for this show to get queer-eyed or whatever. I remember one episode there was like a painter dude. And I don't know, did they live in New York? I think maybe that guy lived in New Jersey City. But they put on like a gallery. They helped him put on a gallery show. You know, he was just kind of living painter, wearing overalls and shit. His hair was kind of like mine. It's like, get it shaped up, get it cleaned up. The idea being, well, what? There was a food guy. There was a clothes guy. There was a, you know, what else? Was there like a Jay Rodriguez? What was his, and I don't know. It was a reality show, so it was part of that whole thing. They were all kind of packaged the same. That was kind of the Bravoization of and I don't know. Like I think it's good that there's organization. And it has changed the society and changed. I mean, at that time, that show was a little bit of a new, you know, Ellen came out in, what was that, 97? Queer Eye was probably like, what, 2003, something? So it was still kind of like, I mean, definitely coming from, you know, you're identifying, or what, I don't know, It was progressive for TV. I mean, Bravo. It was like my favorite cable channel because it was like the arts. It was like the Frasier of cable channels. It was like pretentious, snobby. Inside the Actor Studio. That's where I first saw Larry Sanders Show. They'd rerun all the Larry Sanders, kind of edited for Bravo. But I loved fucking Inside the Actor Studio. Bernard Pivot, because it was like this. It was just heavy, and they're talking about art and they're talking about their process. And it's New York. It's the Actor Studio. You know, it's at that point it was at the New School in the fucking place they filmed at. I walk by every couple days. So yeah, we saw Carson Kressley. And then I remember distinctly coming up from the subway station, that subway station at Sheridan Square, the one train, because we met up with my friends from high school, Christy, who was a singer and a performer and an actor, and she lived in Morningside Heights or Harlem, really. I remember she lived in Harlem because this guy, this like, you know, New York kind of home. At this point, it was still kind of cutty. 2004, it was still kind of like the old New York or the pre-Giuliani New York to some degree. There was still a little bit of an edginess to it and a cuttiness to it. That was before the smartphone, which kind of just vacuumed up all the texture everywhere. But this homeless guy, or, you know, street guy in Harlem goes, "You in the ghetto, you at a place." We were on, I don't know, 120th Street or something, I don't know. And so we took the train from there down to, I like I said, I distinctly remember coming out of the subway at Sheridan Square. And just seeing, and it was Pride. I mean, it was just, there were so many people, and there were, people in drag and just everything that the Pride Parade, especially in Greenwich Village, and perhaps even more so at that time. I mean, just the vitality of it, the liveliness, the creativity, the colors, the outfits, the beauty, the music. And we went to Caliente Cab with Christy and Melissa from our high school, who were like kind of theater, musical theater kind of. They were super cool. It was, considering we were like 19 years old, I'm amazed that we were like, I don't know, able to do this in a certain way. Mature enough to. But this I've been spending tons of time. In fact, I was there last night. I was in Sheridan Square last night. I mean, this was Pride weekend. My timing's just been all off all week. I've just done everything. I really wanted to go to this Gerard Malanga reading at Elizabeth Street Garden, which is this beautiful, beautiful public garden. Or I'm not sure if it's public or what, but it's in like Soho, and it's just it would have been I talk about it in my poem. It would have been the perfect place to see Gerard Malanga, because it's all these like. It's sculptures, and it's kind of overrun with weeds, and it's just. And I was gonna plan in advance. There really needs to be, and I'm not good at this. Otherwise, maybe I would do it. There needs to be like a site or an account that's like New York Poetry events. Here's all the readings that's happening tonight, the open mics. Here's where they are. Every day, a calendar. Because it's just hard to keep track of this shit. Like this, I don't even know. I didn't put it in my calendar or anything, not my iCal. I saw it on Instagram, and it's like, it said, okay, June 23rd or whatever. I think I saw it the week before, and I thought, I should have put it in my calendar. I should have set an alarm or something, because I wasn't really doing shit that day. I finished my work stuff, and then I just did what I always did. I walked around. Like, I easily could have gone to this reading. So I missed it. I mean, God, I really wanted to see that, It would have been such a beautiful setting. And, like, I've never actually seen Gerard Malanga read. And I love his work. I've been reading him a lot recently. I think he is fucking brilliant and just an amazing. He's understudied, undervalued, underread. There's a lot more going on there. I mean, he was fucking side by side with Andy Warhol. He silkscreened the fucking things. He was the one who knew how to do it. Like, considering Warhol is like this, hundreds of millions of dollars, incredibly famous, and Gerard Malanga, like, isn't even really discussed that much as a poet, which he really should be. He is a great poet, honestly. Like, there's a lot going on there. And I can just kind of relate to him. Like, he writes about glamorous shit, like, kind of, I don't know, that whole models and magazines and traveling to Europe and love, New York, Chelsea Hotel. So yeah, I just had that kind of, because I was trying to place, like, when did we come to New York that year? Like, I was trying to remember the exact date, and it was just like, oh yeah, it was Pride weekend, 2004, because the parade was literally going on. And like I said, I remember surfacing at 7th Avenue, Sheridan Square, which of course is like, it's the G spot. It's the center of, like, my whole life. And it's an important location, I think, just in American, obviously, bohemian and psychosexual art and way of life. Is Marie's Crisis right there? That's where fucking Thomas Paine lived? Like, come on. It's where the Lion's Head is. It's where Duplex is. It's where Stonewall is. There's some cafeteria that was there. It's where Fat Cat... You know, so I talk about it in my poem. And it's where Caliente Cab is. Or near there. And it was like that was maybe the first place I ever... Or one of the first places I ever went in Greenwich Village. Basically, the point of that trip, I'd never been to New York. It's the first time I'd ever been to New York. I was obsessed with it. I mean, I was obsessed with New York City. I still am. It's really the only content of my life in a lot of ways. In just kind of an insane, stupid way, to be honest. There's a lot more to the world than New York. And I feel like at this point, I've just kind of been doing the same shit over and over again for 10 years. And I haven't even gotten anywhere. I'm still at the beginning of my quest for revitalization. I want to talk more about Pride. I have a whole thing I want to talk more about, but I did want to get this out of the way real fast, the book of the day, just so I can get it out of my hands. I know if I don't hold it, I'll forget about it. I do think it's kind of a cool segment. First, the song of the day, the song that was going through my head. Literally the last thing I saw on country music television, Heartland, the Heartland channel, was, I don't know who this guy is. He was 70s as fuck and really just glamorous as hell. The song Rose-Colored Glasses. He was wearing these rose-colored glasses that were just like the ultimate rose-colored glasses you could have. He's like, I'm going on fucking TV. I'm singing my hit song, Rose-Colored Glasses. Give me the baddest fucking rose-colored glasses possible. Humanly possible. And so that's the song of the day, Rose-Colored Glasses. I don't know who does it. It's country. Look it up. I'm sure it's a kind of a famous thing. It was in my head. It sounds a lot like Concentration Moon by Frank Zappa, in my opinion. But it was the last thing, literally right before I came on. So it's kind of in my head, Rose-Colored Glasses. So I don't know. I like doing the segments, kind of break it up. And I also want to do a top 10. Nobody does top 10. And I love Craig Kilborn's 5 questions. I mean, of course, The Daily Show was a crucial part of our democracy during the Bush years. It was practically like a branch of government in a certain way. Certainly, like, the most powerful part of, like, the liberal press, I would say. And even the liberal opposition, maybe, as far as, like, media shit. And voices of dissent. Even though they're just clowns and nobody took them seriously. That's irony. Irony is not enough contact. But I like Craig Kilborn's 5 questions. He was the host before Jon Stewart. And honestly, I kind of like Craig Kilborn better. I don't know. Jon Stewart just, like, does this, like, cutie shit that, like... And he does, like, baby voice shit. It's like, this is gross. Like, he's kind of Adam Sandler-ish. And he's just, I don't know. His whole air is like the smartest preppy douchebag essayist guy from like the East Coast at like Georgetown or something. I know he went to like William and Mary or whatever, but I don't know. He just feels like very like collegiate and like not even academic, more just like a guy that's like playing soccer and he's a poli-sci major. It's like, I don't know. He's cool. I like Jon Stewart. I do think he's smart and stuff, but Jesus Christ. He was all we had. And he's still kind of, I don't know. I did not like him coming out the other day and saying that the fucking virus was started in a lab in Wuhan. I thought that was incredibly reckless and irresponsible. He's trying to play both sides, I guess, but I didn't like that. I thought that was really dumb to put that out there. But I liked Craig Coburn's 5 Questions, if you remember 5 Questions. Probably nobody does, but that was a cool segment. So top 10, like John Porcellino does top 10. Here's the top 10 songs, books. Maybe I'll do a top 10 segment. Not like Letterman. Like Letterman's like a joke thing. John Porcellino's top 10 is like, here's movies I've been watching, books, just things in life that I love. Food. John Porcellino's a giant. If you don't know John Porcellino, get King Cat Comics. He's a huge artist. And a huge inspiration, definitely, for me. He's about as lo-fi as it gets, I'd say. King Cat Comics. That's in my top 10. So I'll sprinkle top 10 throughout. What else? So this is the book of the day. Let me just get into this. This is part of the top 10. This I keep in my bathroom. It is like, I bought it at Unnameable, I think for $3. And I just had to have it because it just spoke directly to my soul. And just like, so I keep it. I don't, my bathroom, your bathroom, you don't want to keep something nice. It's going to get destroyed. And it's just a gross, but it's also kind of, I don't know, an aesthetic and honored place in the home. Like, you're gonna read it. You're on the toilet. Like, that's why I put it there, because it's also a social place. So I'm suggesting reading material to people like, hey, you're on the toilet, check this book out. Check out the Strategic Reality Dictionary, Deep Info, Politics, and Cultural Intelligence. I think by Conrad Becker is the guy's name. Conrad Becker, yeah. And so, like, if you're in the bathroom, you might pick this up. My brother did. It was in the bathroom at Morgan at the portal. The portal at the spa. And my brother picked it up, and he thought it was really interesting. So that's why I do it. That's really the reason why, in hopes. It's the most effective form of disseminating literature, I'd say. Put your stuff, like, in bathrooms. Somebody will actually read it. They don't have anything else. They might pick it up, actually. If you put it in a bookstore, they'll buy it, they'll take it home, they'll never read it. It's just to look nice. It's just to make them feel smart. And it's like a piece of furniture. Books are like interior decorating tchotchkes. Whereas bathroom, so I keep the Brooklyn Rail in there because it's a paper, and I can open it up when I'm on. And I don't know. I don't like looking at my phone. I know that's probably what everybody does now. So, but I'm old school. I'm analog. I have real books in my bathroom, and this is the only one, because I do look at it basically, and the pieces are kind of perfect. They're all about a page, but they're very dense, kind of theory. It's not really theory, I wouldn't say. It's just like, let me just read something. It's plagiarism appropriated. Reactionary ideologies emphasize the peculiar individuality of ownership while mystifying creation. In a cultural system based on branding and authenticity, the focus is on insignificant innovations of individual artists. In contrast to this model of value creation, cultural production is based on a multiplicity of traditions built up over thousands of years, vectors of culture that defy authorship. An author denies their situation in forgetting the collective inquiry in which they are inscribed, in isolating the discourse from its historical genesis. The illusion of authorship is an abstraction setting aside the discourse-object relations. It removes and hides the traces of a virtual network that always comprises the author's rights. To free cultural practice from explanatory modes of objective authenticity, it becomes logical to recognize the plurality of individual authors as illusory. Rather than vain proclamations and distributed roles in the spectacle, engagement in a processual reality of discrete agency is in tune with situational practice. Plagiaristic appropriation, a practice that social developments have always been based on, is rooted in social process and shared interactions. In 1870, the French poet Lautréamont wrote, "Plagiarism is necessary. Progress implies it. It closely grasps an author's sentence, uses his expressions, deletes a false idea, and replaces it with a right one. Artistic practice should be free," end quote. Artistic practice should be free to reflect its everyday environment and incorporate public influences, whether ads, television, or other forms of media, for the purpose of parody, comment, and criticism, beyond restrictive fair use rules. Situationists, concerned with taking charge of information flows and to expose the mechanisms of control, have endorsed plagiarism for the integration of present or past artistic production into a superior construction of a milieu, end quote. The very fact that anybody can plagiarize anything attacks the concept of culture as the sacred possession of tiny elites. Plagiarism, a valid artistic tool, challenges the bourgeois myth of genius and a property-based philosophy that dominates the economic and political systems of the Western world. Directing life along the path of financial interests, where the only investment is into gain, those at the top of this pyramid scheme hold the power to control both material existence and the imagination. To consolidate the latent forces of resistance, it's an act of cultural self-defense to attack the high-maintenance bodies of academic speculation and theory and the covert social stratification of knowledge with the slingshots of common sense. So this is all, that's the whole piece. So, like, you don't necessarily read the whole thing, but, that's about the length of when you're going to the bathroom, let's say. But it's everything that we're talking. It's about copyright, basically. And about you can't plagiarize because there are geniuses, intellectual property. The way it's written is I don't know how to describe it. It's very it sounds like theory or not really academic because it's not really talking through those. Like, this is a frustration I have with so many people that want to be considered smart, and this is another thing I wanted to talk about, is this, they're always dropping these names, Lacan, Hegel, Bataille, Barthes, and it's like it's a currency for them because that's their education, and there may well, I'm sure there is. I have no doubt that there is validity to what they're saying, but it also feels like intellectual counterfeit money. That's what Herzog said about it. He said all these theory, whereas like it's a currency amongst these people with degrees, people who have been through academia, and you're talking through those terms. Well, it's like a Lacanian. It's a signifier of the parataxis. I mean, I like the way Bernstein does it, but like when people are just name dropping theory, it's Lacan. It's like that feels like elitist rich people. So MFA and grad school as a kind of gatekeeping, right? Like, I don't necessarily want to get into this at the top of the show, but like you can't get a job. And how are you going to get an MFA, particularly from an elite university? It's a money thing. The student loan debt thing is a huge thing amongst people our age. Cancel the student loan debt. Well, if you want to get an MFA, you're going to take out 5-6 figures of student loan debt. You're going to be paying it off. You will maybe be able to get a job as an adjunct, but it's like, so that's what the degree seems like to me. Is like that's the deal that you're making. Is like the universities have money, they have endowments, they charge tuition, and they have certification, which is this. That was one thing he mentioned in one of these essays. So they're doling out. You have to buy in. You want to work for them. They're the employer. Especially as a poet, there is no other job almost at all, except to work for a university, unless you want a real job. Like nobody wants to be a high school teacher, even. No poets that I knew a few, I think, or one, went to get an MFA. It's the only way, but it's like the idea being that these people are better. They're pre-sifting the talent, and it is a competitive. I mean, that's our whole society: free market, competitive job. Everybody, 20 people are trying to get into one job. That's good. It's competition, makes people work harder, be better. It just makes them careerists. The thing that's frustrating is you're taken less seriously as an artist if you don't have one. You don't have the same presence. You're not allowed in, to be honest. And it financializes and it institutionalizes relationships that should be organic and are very difficult. You have to be really good to make this shit happen on your own. You have to. When you buy into the MFA, when you get in, they introduce you to the friends you're going to have and this social network you're going to have for the rest of your fucking life. They introduce you into the people on the inside. They're all MFAs. They're all professors. They have all the power. They have all the publications. Like, unless somehow you can become an influencer or get famous, then maybe people will pay attention. But, like, if you have a degree, you can get a job, and suddenly people will take you seriously. You'll get, your professors will give you jobs. They'll introduce you to editors. They'll send your work to editors. They'll help your work get better. Like, it's dumb not to get one, honestly, like, rather than bitch about it. And I've had a couple of close calls. I won't necessarily go into that, but I probably should have gotten my MFA in 2017. The program that I got accepted to it literally fell apart. I don't even know if I would have been able to graduate, frankly. It may have fallen apart before I could have even gotten that far. So it's like, God doesn't seem to want me to have an MFA, and yet it's just particularly painful for me because, like, in every way. Like, you don't get booked, you don't get published, you have to figure out all of this shit for yourself. You have to pay for workshops out of your own pocket. I mean, okay, granted, maybe $350 for a workshop. I wouldn't pay that necessarily. Let's say $300 for a workshop is considerably less than tuition for one class in an MFA, but it's not credentialed. It doesn't mean anything other than, like, you studied with this person. And so much of the currency of poetry is, like, who you studied with, who vouches for you, who your mentor is, who kind of vetted you, who brought you in. At least as far as, like, if you want to accrue it's hard to have a sense of self, to be honest. Like me, I'm just kind of obliterated on these open mics and shit. And I can't get a job, certainly. I mean, there's just, you're not even considered. It's like, it's a basic necessity. It's a basic requirement. That's just the beginning. A lot of people have PhDs now, and they're still fucked. Like, it's about but it's also just like a compromising system, I think, to some degree. As somebody who, like, I don't know, it could be awesome to go through an MFA. What are they doing to your writing? The program that I got into, I would have trusted completely, because as it was Lewis Warsh and Erica Hunt, like, you couldn't have better people, frankly. It would have been the ultimate thing I ever could have done, to be honest. I don't know why it didn't happen. It haunts me. And Lewis Warsh passed away last year, so I blew that big time. Fucking pathetic. That's my whole career. My whole career is just kind of is just embarrassments, painful, poetic justice, really. It's just a series of, like, really optimally designed Rube Goldbergs of withholding my dreams and dangling them in front of me, and then me sabotaging them. And if I had an MFA, I mean, I think I don't know. I got into that MFA. That would have been the best thing. The thing that made me suspicious about it is, like, my sense is, like, I probably won't even get into any other MFA. Like, my writing style is just, like, a lot different than what your typical MFA, let's say, is trying to do. So, not that I couldn't be. It's been a long time since I've been, like, in a university, certainly poetry workshop. But a lot of my friends are poets, and I like discussing the work and workshopping, and it frustrates me how people need, like, an official context to really want to be involved with something like that. Like, for me, I've always tried to do DIY and I do a workshop here. I would love to. Is this shutter open too much? It was kind of doing this slow-mo thing. Should I check the camera real fast? Yeah, let me check it. And that's all well and good, but what? You're going to have a life where you're submitting to a bunch of, like I said, just the aesthetic of most places is different. And it would be nice. I mean, university is power. Like, I do think what they had at Long Island University for a long time, until I got there, then it fell apart as far as their financing or their budget or whatever. But it seemed like they had a nice thing where they could bring in writers that were part of the kind of outrider community, the Naropa type, like Ann Waldman or anybody Lewis Warsh or Erica Hunt knows, Bernadette Mayer. They would come in. So it's not a traditional university. It's not even like NYU or something. Like, NYU is still pretty mainstream, I would say. I mean, they're like one of the utmost of the mainstream, but they're not radical. I mean, they're radical in just, like, the most official way. Like, Columbia is where you go if you want to be, like, distinguished person in tweed and have that whole vibe. But those people are taken seriously. They get paid. They get jobs. And for what? Because they went to school for 2 years? That's absurd. Like, I've been doing this since I was 24. 23, yeah. And even before that, really. I've been doing it my whole life, frankly. But that's when I realized that it was like, that was the beginning of my journey as this being my primary lens and way of going through life. And I'd like to be a teacher, a professor. Who wouldn't? I'd love to be in the fucking New Yorker. I'd love to be in Poetry Magazine. I guess. I mean, would I love it? Like, it feels like something you have to do to get respect from people, to be honest. Like, that's one. If you get an MFA, it helps you, like I said, get mentors. It just buys you into that. It's a lot easier to get to know people within that system. I'm sure there's difficulties, and I'm sure, like, socially, it doesn't work for certain people. Like, I think Tommy Pico left his MFA program because it was like he couldn't deal. It had, especially when it was whiter, there were people that were ostracized and felt alienated by their programs, and they had to quit. And and there are, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people who don't have MFAs who are like Hanif Abdurraqib doesn't have an MFA. He was a writer for MTV News, and he was like a social media success. So I think there's definitely, if you can become an influencer or famous, or me, the reason why there's no one I can blame but myself, because I brought myself right to the doorstep, and I've just failed. Like, I've just created a lot of weirdness, and like I've just failed to push through. I mean, I don't have any confidence really. I feel like I've gotten a lot better over the past few years, but I definitely didn't have any confidence in my work whatsoever until probably definitely after the MFA. That was the reason why I was so like unsure of it, because I was just like, why are they treating me so like they really want me here, and I'm like their top fucking prospect or something, because like everybody else just acts like my poetry sucks and I'm some embarrassing joke or something. So it's been painful to suffer through that for like 10 years. And then some. I mean, at this point, 13. And then some. I mean, this has been going on my whole life. If I would have, I mean, in a big picture kind of way, that's all people would have had to have seen. If I would have gone to fucking Long Island University, I would have got an MFA. I would have studied with Louis Warsh and Erica Hunt, and maybe even, who knows, maybe they would have blurred my book. Maybe I could have put out a book with them. Maybe Louis Warsh would have put out one of my books. Who knows? That would be like my dream. It seemed right there. It seemed like it's all, this is perfect. This is all happening. And then it just like fell apart. It was Trump era. So that's just the way everything fucking happened. I mean, maybe that was my own manifestation. Maybe maybe failure is like, I don't know. I feel like I can't resist it. So anyway, the Strategic Reality Dictionary. Well, he also said something interesting about copyright. Copyright is the privatization of censorship, and that's a lot of the point that he's making here. Is it's a way of controlling the narrative and controlling the resources. You can't plagiarize this. It's property. It's this person wrote it. They're a genius, so they get money. They get the rest of you You have to pay. You can't. You have to listen to it every fucking place you go. We're just going to play these goddamn classic rock songs everywhere you go for your entire life. You're going to be hearing, "Don't Let Me Down." No, no. Or whatever it is. The Beatles, Satisfaction, whatever. But you can't, if it's in one of your YouTube videos, we're going to flag it, we're going to take it down, because you can't make money off of it. It's somebody else's intellectual property. The book it's not all about that. The point is, these are little kind of vignettes that just kind of, Vannevar Bush, this is the one I read earlier, Info Warcraft. Vannevar Bush is credited with the first visionary outline of electronic information technologies and established the U.S. Military Research Partnership, DARPA and ARPANET, that developed the Internet. DARPA and ARPANET. You may remember that from Metal Gear Solid, I think. A premier 20th century technocrat who foresaw the personal computer and invented hypertext, he had a fundamental role in constructing America's military-industrial academic complex by channeling billions of dollars into the laboratories that built the information age. As top-ranking Cold Warrior, he brought together the U.S. military and universities with an unprecedented level of funding for rapidly improving military technologies. A prime agent in the militarization of the general intellect, he married science and the state in order to invent new dimensions of destruction. In a system where decisions are transferred to experts beyond the accountability of a voting public, Vannevar Bush saw populism and the widening participation of citizens in the machinery of government as a recipe for decline and favored rule by the well-to-do and highly educated. The co-founder of Raytheon, one of the largest U.S. defense contractors, he was in charge of weapons development, research, and supervised the development of the atom bomb. Bush and his colleagues developed the first analog computer capable of solving differential equations in 1935. But his most influential work was a visionary description of a hypermedia information system called MEMEX, short for memory extension. In an Atlantic Monthly article in July 1945 titled "As We May Think," he described the first automated and screen-based multimedia information management system. Bush's MEMEX was a breakthrough revelation, an information-centric application anticipating the future of electronic hypermedia technology. Hypertext, a term coined by Ted Nelson in the 1960s, refers to forms of electronic text that are experienced as nonlinear or multilinear. Hypermedia, an information medium linking verbal and nonverbal information, extends the notion of hypertext by including visual information, sound, animation, and other forms of data. The most visionary feature of the MEMEX, however, lies not only in its capacities for retrieval and annotation, but in endless trails of associative indexing links. The basic idea of which is a provision whereby any item may be caused at will to select immediately and automatically another. Bush identified a major issue in the methods of information selection and retrieval in large data inventories. Now more than ever, with online multimedia computers and digital search engines realized, this remains a challenging issue with access to information in conflict with adequate means of storing, arranging, and tagging. To permit natural tendencies for selection by association rather than indexing, and to overcome restrictions of inadequate classification systems, Bush proposed a device that would automate more efficient modes of manipulating information and imagination, an intimate supplement to memory. So yeah, I mean, every fucking essay in this is just like, this was written in 2008. You know, all that stuff about tagging, you know, metadata, basically. And what I was talking about the other day about how Facebook turns an image into searchable information. It just, whatever the image is, it reads it and it kind of provides this kind of description for the algorithm so it can be searched. So, this starts talking about militarization of the general intellect and the military-industrial academic complex by channeling billions of dollars. So this is exactly what I was talking about. And this is something people on the internet joke about from time to time, how the CIA funded Iowa and funded all these universities and funded literary magazines, like the fucking Paris Review, I guess, was funded by the CIA. And so, what were they funding? It's a military-industrial academic complex. They're breeding a class of the American class of intellectuals. What do they want them to believe? They are prescribing, and who, the people with the money, the CIA. Why did they start the Paris Review? Why did they start the MFA at Iowa? Why are they trying to inspire and encourage the values in the literature that they're trying to encourage? And what are they? And so this is another reason not to get an MFA. It's once again, it's one of these kind of domesticated, undomesticated things. Like, if you want to be domesticated, if you want to make six figures and be some hotshot professor and get published by FSG or whoever and speak at the 92nd Street Y, like, you get domesticated. You get groomed, you get a haircut, you get a shave, you get shampooed. You get turned into a product, you get corporatized. I mean, now, of course, it's like, it's about how hot you are, to be honest. A lot of the people that I see that are successful poets, it's just like, well, they're hot. There's no fucking mystery there. It's like people like their work because they're fucking hot. And then they co-opt whatever right now it's woke. So it's like they're just hardcore about that. Like, oh, not only am I really hot, but I'm like queer and like I'm all over Instagram. Here's 1,000 pictures of me. Aren't I great? Aren't I fabulous? Like me, like me, like me. These are the people that made the atom bomb. These are the people he invented hypertext, hyperlinks, DARPANET, ARPANET. What? Those were like kind of the early internet, right? It was a way for the military to share information. We all know that, but like, if you look at the American academic class, they've solidified, definitely now, the movement is absolutely, and it has been, in the 90s, the war was like between Harold Bloom, white guy, canon, everything this guy's talking about, genius, Western, civilization, Shakespeare, and then multiculturalism, PC. In the 90s, it was like, oh God, well, Harold Bloom just thought this was ghastly. Oh, Allen Ginsberg, he's a very nice man, but he cannot write his way out of a paper bag. And it's like, now that side is just dead, more or less. And so the political solidarity, let's say, of this is what I see people who are adjuncts in this country complain about on Twitter, basically. Like, as far as, like, if there were to be an intellectual class in this country, what would that look like? Are the academics that? How does academia in this country differ from Europe, let's say, where it's very codified, and I don't know, there's some sense that those people are like ultra intelligent and they're kind of sponsored by the state. This is another thing I wanted to talk about was fucking Piss Christ. And the idea that state money can't go to finance works of art or controversial works of art, like Piss Christ, this was the thing that Jesse Helms attacked and said, we need to defund the NEA because it's going to things like this, which are sacrilegious. It stirred up his base, Christian conservative fucking dumbasses, because it was a picture. It's like a beautiful picture of like Jesus on the cross, and it's just gorgeous. You look at it, you think amazing. Then you realize the story behind it was, I don't know exactly the whole thing, but like the cross is in a jar of piss. The artist like submerged Jesus in like a jar of his own piss or something. And so it's actually a picture of Jesus in this jar of piss. But it's a beautiful picture. And I don't know what you tell me the implications of that. It's called Piss Christ. And so this was, in the public's mind, this is outrageous. We are not paying for this with our tax dollars. This is, that was how they defunded the NEA. That was how the psyche in this country was able to divorce, like, the economics are a psyop. All of the systems of value and how they're set up and and that's kind of the point that he's making, is there's leverage and there's a militaristic like command over our imagination to prevent us from seeing other possibilities and to having certain values. So Piss Christ, our tax dollars, we work hard. We don't want the government, the wasteful liberal government, taking our money and giving it to these degenerate art. They've all got AIDS. They're all on heroin. They're all shooting needles and shit in New York. This was the 80s, right? I think the early 80s, some Reagan era was when Piss Christ happened. And I just think that is so. I think the government should absolutely sponsor art. And in fact, the government should sponsor Piss Christ. They should give that guy a genius grade. Because that is a fucking masterpiece. And like, it's amazing as much art gets made in this country as it does, considering there's just a homicidal attitude against it. And there's almost no time or resources. I mean, it's hard for them to, like, I guess, oversee what you're doing all the time. But between your job and all the TV you need to watch, there's not a lot of people making art. And there's not a lot of people really supporting art. This is just an attitude with our economy is like, oh, this is not any good. This person's not any good. I need to see a Tom Petty cover band. Or... just nobody knows how to chase their own ideas. I don't know. People do have ideas. This is how corrupted we are. All this stuff is very natural. Just following what works, following your own sensibility is a very natural thing. They've tricked us into thinking we need to buy an MFA to be legitimized, and it's bullshit. And as a person, as an outsider, where do you exist? You do what I do. I do it in bars. That's my fucking MFA. Doing open mics. I mean, the Poetry Project is as close to an institution as I've been, really, other than jobs I've had. But most of what I've done is like the Slooge public access brick, I guess. That's a government program. It's paid for, I think, with tax dollars. In Columbus, they got rid of it. Public access TV was one of the most beautiful things about Columbus, Ohio. And it was a vital public resource. And why did they get rid of it? Because Damon Zex, he's the equivalent of Piss Christ. He was a performance artist, and he had a classic bit where he'd go drinking and driving. He'd be drinking whiskey and driving his car around. He wasn't actually doing it. It was a fucking, it was a prank, it was a gag. Or my favorite was he really did it right. They were like little silent films This one, he came out, he got Rice Krispies out of the fridge. He gets this bottle of wine, pours the Rice Krispies in the bowl, pours the wine in the bowl, eats the Rice Krispies with the wine. As if that wasn't good enough. He barfs the Rice Krispies back into the bowl. And it's wine and barf and Rice Krispies in the bowl. And he eats it again. I mean, that's performance art. That's basically what they were doing. And I mean, to some degree, I saw that probably in the 90s in Columbus. That was why they took the money away. Because he was too good. My Damon Zex video is still the highest watch video of my videos by far. By far. People commented on it regularly because people love Damon Zex. The government should be happy. I fucking take my tax dollars. Give it to Damon Zex. I'd rather him have it than Blackwater. Like, how much of our fucking tax dollars does the military get? Does the fucking cops get? The NEA budget is microscopic comparatively. Like, that's the conversation. Even if you're not all about, like, abolishing, like, defund. The military budget could be 1/10 of what it is. And we'd be fine. Like, it's just unhealthy. It's like an addiction. It's a wealth transference. That's all it is. It's a wealth transference. We need security. So how do they psych us into that? They scare the shit out of everybody with 9/11 or whatever. I mean, we just live in a climate of terror and fear. Whether am I going to get killed in a mass shooting, or, oh my God, I can't talk to this person because, like, they're going to, I just am afraid to. I'm just socially awkward. I need to scroll, and I need likes. I need serotonin injection from the feed. And this was something they were talking about on, I was watching, because I got this fucking, and there was actually something really interesting on it. The TV, I turn it on when I'm rolling now. It's my bad habit. I allow myself to watch TV for, like, I don't know, 5 or 10 or 20. It's just a window on the world, I guess. And I don't know. This channel mystifies me. I don't know how it comes in here. Heartland TV. It's a psyop. They clearly have somebody dumping money into it to brainwash people. Because, okay, so the thing I saw, it was just so weird. Because first, it was that was 2 different stations. Let me talk first about the Christian station. There's some Christian station. I think it's the Heartland station. Sometimes they have... Maybe it's a different station. But the guy was talking about how they needed to be on YouTube. And they needed to be on social media to get their message out. And it was almost like a call to arms. He was like this psycho Christian conservative, like sort of a Pat Roberts type guy, kind of old and scary and frail. And he's like, it was basically telling his followers, and like I said, this is the AM radio equivalent of TV. It's just regular. I don't have any antenna. I don't have any cable. It's just what I got as a poor ass person. These are the poor people stations. And he's like, you get on social media, pour money into that. We need to pour money into this. So, because it was all about controlling the narrative and making sure the liberal media doesn't want God in our schools. And it was amazing because everything he was saying, I was like, yeah, this is not that part, but like everything he was saying about, like, we need to get on YouTube. I was like, yeah, I do. And he's like, we need to control the message. I was like, yeah, you're exactly right. Like everything I was saying, I was like, yeah, this is good advice, but just not for him. Then he starts talking about, they want God out of our schools. And it's like, well, the reason why it was contrasted, the program that I was watching immediately before, I think it may have been on the same station, was this unbelievable. It was one of the smartest things I've ever seen on fucking TV. I couldn't believe, when I first turned it on, I thought it was religious, because it's that famous painting of, what is it, Plato's pointing up and Aristotle is pointing out. It's is it School of Athens? Is that what it's called? I think is it Raphael? It's like a Renaissance master. It's a famous fucking painting. It's that painting where he's unkempt, his beard is wild, he's the high realm. Aristotle has had a fresh haircut. He's pointing to the realm of people. I thought he was pointing down. He's not. He's pointing out to human activity, to the world. And this is what this guy, first I thought it was about God, because he was sort of talking about the power of God or some shit like that in the painting. I was like, okay, this is some paid programming for some religious shit, and they're just using this painting as like. But as I'm watching it more, I'm like, no, this guy was an art historian at Columbia. He's a professor there, and he just did this like super fucking in-depth, just like super insightful, just like incredibly insightful. I mean, it was like kind of suspicious, because it was so like, this means this and this means this, and I mean, you could read those. A lot of it was about mathematics and form, ratios. These were things they discovered in the Renaissance, so the painting is kind of about that. Euclid's book is the lowest thing in the painting, so that means this. And definitely, like, I definitely think the system of meaning that the guy is describing is there. It's not like some abstract fucking, well, it's just whatever you think it is, man. I mean, it is that, whatever, but like there's these, they're all people, they're all emblematic of some kind of, even the way they're like looking and posed, it all has meaning. Or at least this guy says he's able to sell it like there is. And everything he's saying, the arch above them, they're the only two figures in the painting that are in the sky. The rest of the painting, because there's a little window, the arch springs from his finger and it's above them, and then all the other figures are inside. And I don't know, just like, it was amazing. I was watching it, I was just thinking, God, this is so smart. I can't believe this is even on fucking TV. Like, thank God, I'll watch this station all day. What is this? Is this Bravo? Is this Trio? And it was over. It wasn't, I caught kind of the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And I was just like, literally like, wow, this is amazing. This is literally like the fucking most educational. Like, I'll take a whole course. Like, just have this guy, it was so in-depth analysis and kind of extrapolating the hidden meanings. Not even like a Da Vinci Code. Like I said, he was at Columbia. He was talking about it like an artwork, in the artistic values and how they reflected the morals and the kind of technological advancements of the age. And it was just so edifying. It was better than anything I'd seen on YouTube, honestly. Like, because it was just concise, clear. There was no fat. And so then when the fucking show I was just talking about, what the fuck was I talking about? The show about the guy talking about how Christian, I was like, Christian, their ideology needs to occupy the kind of media and the attention. They need to get their message out. That's important. So one of the things they recommended was like, get a documentary. Watch it with your family. Have friends over. Get like a Dinesh D'Souza documentary. Watch it with your friends. It was like they had taken money, time, effort to put this on TV as sort of a commercial for Christian conservatives. So, I'm watching this show about this painting. I'm like, oh my God, what if these TV stations were owned publicly, or if not owned publicly, like what if they encourage, like what if the History Channel actually showed something like this, rather than whatever the fuck. I don't even know what they show anymore. Is it all Ancient Aliens, or has it gone even? Is it Bayou People, or is that TLC has gone like full? I mean, they went reality show a long time ago. They went way. They're not learning at all. No one's learning from fucking John and Kate +8 or whatever the fuck that was a long time ago. But whatever it is now, who was it? Honey, what was that one show? Honey Boo, or who was the fucking like? It's horrible. But so I'm watching this. I'm thinking, well, what if even these public stations? Like, what if we didn't sell them to Christian conservatives, religious televangelists, people that are polluting and occupy? What if you fed people? I know if I was a kid and that came, even now when it came on TV, I'll fucking watch this. This is the most educational fucking thing I've seen in years, to be frank. As far as like concise and like actually providing answers and just like definitely on TV. What if the dial was full of things like that? It would be like purifying the water supply. But instead, we have people with money. Like the people who are dumping money into the Christian television, they have money. The Koch brothers give them money. The right-wing people have money. I mean, the left-wing people, like, they're entertainers, right? I mean, it worked as a TV show. I mean, maybe it was too smart, I guess. If they put that on TV, nobody would watch. But that's the economics of the situation, is what I'm saying. Is like, this is American society. It's economics. It's free market. If the fucking Christian conservative people have money and they buy the station, they're on. The Columbia University, nobody watches this. Who the fuck is nobody will pay to advertise on this. So it's not economically viable. So it just doesn't exist. I mean, I think that's so backwards. I think our society's values are just out of control. Like, the food that people eat doesn't have any nutrition in it, but it's the only food that people want, so it's the only food they'll pay for. Like, it's not necessarily what you're supposed to eat. Pizza, cheeseburgers, french fries. But all I'm paying for, I want something. It's a consumer choice. And these things are not necessarily accidental. They're all industries. Meat, dairy. This is America. This is the farmland. Soy. So a lot of these things where, okay, we're told it's a meritocracy. We're told it's a free market. We're told everybody lives or dies by their own talent or hard work or luck or whatever the fuck you want to call it. These are also white supremacist, eugenic ideas. And it's weird because it degrades. Like, the competition doesn't lead to... It leads to sameness in a weird way. Like Pepsi and Coke. That's not competition. Democrat and Republican is what most people think, right? You're not... You'd think the competition would open... Oh, there's so many candidates. I mean, I guess in the primaries maybe, but even that, the political parties hold control. It's just like there's so little room to survive as an innovator, as well, I mean, particularly you feel like you just in a system that is putting so much focus on success, views, likes, ratings, money, quantifiable measures of your effectiveness, supposedly. And so with writing, right, to go back to the MFA thing, What system are you buying into? Uh, when you're getting an MFA, it looks like this great victory. You're on your way. You're learning. You're getting published. You're getting accredited. You're on your way to a job. It's just like the fact. I've always resented MFA and training bias. It's something I struggled with in theater, obviously. Training. Well, you don't have the right training. Fuck the training. I'm here. Like, let's figure out how to do it right. You don't need training. Fuck that. I'm not a dog. But it's something that those people have been trained to see. And a lot of these things, these kind of codifying of our values, our aesthetics, our sense of how art can be made, what's good even, can be manipulated, can be shaped, can be... And that's part of what the MFA is doing. This is why there's... The only people who read poetry are people who have MFAs or people who have learned this specialized skill. The more... Everything's like that. You know, like theater people they went to school for theater, so they know about viewpoints, they know about city, they know about... And so they're seeing a different thing when they go out to see a show. It's different than like when my uncle goes and sees fucking Cats or whatever, or Jersey Boys. You know, like my family thinks Jersey Boys is probably the greatest play ever made, to be honest. And who's to say they're wrong? But I doubt if the guy with the PhD in, you know, Brecht or whatever would see it the same way. So it's the competitiveness and like the fear I think people have of being canceled or saying the wrong things or losing their jobs, losing their whole lives, losing their position within this world. Your reputation means everything. Your reputation is your food. You know, it's your meal ticket. And you know, the degree, considering it only takes 2 years, why not take that deal? Why not just, okay, I'm going to take on 80, 100 grand, or I mean, going to get an MFA in New York, I probably could have done it, like I said, when I got accepted, because I was in that little room, but it would have even been hard because, like, I still would have had to pay my rent. I still would have had to earn a living. So this is another class. It's a class issue. Poor people, unless you go to a fully funded MFA, you're either taking on a lot of debt or working in insane... I mean, even at LIU, right, the deal was I would work as a tutor for 10 hours a week, and I get 2 free classes. That was the deal. That's not bad. I'd fucking, you know, I would definitely do it. It fell apart. The deal fell apart. For the most part, I distrusted that it was like, I don't know. I guess I just distrust institutions. They reject you, and I don't know. I'm sure that I could behave under those circumstances. How compromising is the system? From what I mostly see people complaining about how they're adjuncts and how they don't make enough money and they don't have any benefits and they're tenuously employed. And everybody wants tenure. Oh my God, everybody wants fucking tenure. It's like this big social media brag when you get tenure. But it's like, you just want a comfortable living and job security. And you're buying status and position as an artist, frankly. If you're a professor, are you an artist? To me, this seem. I mean, I think being a professor professionalizes you in a way that I'm not sure. It's not my vibe necessarily. Usually, when I was first reading, those are the people whose books get distribution. This is another thing. It's like they're the ones you're encouraged to fucking read. The canon of white male are people with postgraduate degrees, people who are respected by people with postgraduate degrees. Elizabeth Bishop, James Merrill. Does he have a graduate degree? Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But he's rich as fuck. They're both rich as fuck is the point. And I think they probably both went to Harvard. Who else? Randall Jarrell, maybe. And that's not to discredit. It's just like these are the poets that are taken seriously. Robert Haas. What's the guy? D.A. Powell. Henri Cole, of course. Jory Graham. Louise Glick won the Nobel Prize. That was absurd. That was just academic bullshit. That's somebody that they don't know the inside of what's really going on in this country. Like, Louise Glick is just academic bullshit. And like I said, that's not to say that she's not a good writer or even a great writer. Like, I've enjoyed that. Looking back on the stuff that I read that was like legitimate poetry, that was like canonized and like, let's say, Academy of American Poets, it's all just like very dry, and there's just not like Louise Glick. I just think a lot of that shit is corny, to be honest. That's what an MFA does to you. And they've got fabulous jobs. I teach at Yale. I make a shitload of money. I can afford to travel, of course. I'm always getting booked. I've got multiple houses. I eat fancy dinners. My professor in college had a Prada bag. I was like, aren't poets supposed to be poor and unsuccessful? What's going on here? I mean, part of what I admired and part of what seems different about poetry is that it's not beholden to these professional hypocrisies and the economic values. Nobody likes it. Nobody wants to buy it. People hate it. They don't want, oh God, a poetry reading. What could be more boring than that? So it didn't seem like there was the same compromised quality to that life. And you can live that life, and I have, frankly, as a loner, totally not even coming into contact with any, and just do it. And a lot of people do. A lot of people write poetry and never share it and never put a book out or even a chat book or anything. But that doesn't mean they don't see the world that way and it's not a part of their lives. When you come up in contact with these social structures and scenes and you want status and to some degree confirmation, I think, as an artist, You want to be respected by your peers. I mean, especially in poetry where there isn't really a popular audience otherwise, at least not in the... For whatever reason, I don't know why. Even with painting you can kind of attain huge, like Warhol is a household, like, just vibe. Everybody knows what that poetry, even a famous, I mean, I don't know. It's a less popular, the books don't sell a lot, right? I mean, some people break through, but the nature of the work is different. And so, I don't know. I'd like to just get past this. It's just, I mean, it has been, like, there's a whole book about it. That book by fucking the N+1 people, MFA versus New York City. The whole fucking book is about, should I get an MFA somewhere or should I move to New York? And of course, I think it was probably written 10 years or more ago. So that question is kind of, I don't know. I guess that's still pertinent, but the most successful people that I've seen do both. You know, if you get an MFA in New York, you're probably going to be able to just like go into readings, and you could even get on your feet doing that before you graduate, possibly. You're just going to meet everybody here, and everybody knows everybody, and if you're coming from Michigan or Iowa or whatever, I mean, those people get introduced to, and those people get, like, showcases, of course, because they're special, because they went to those schools. That's what I don't like about it. It's just a way of pre-sorting. Oh, you're a great writer. You went to Iowa? Pff, you're a fucking genius. Obviously. You went to fucking Iowa? Oh my God, this is brilliant. Oh, you went to Michigan? God, you're fucking amazing. You're fucking brilliant. You went to Michigan? Holy shit. Oh, NYU, yeah, cool. Oh, you went to Columbia? Oh my God, wow. You went to fucking Columbia University, and wow. Mark Strand taught there. Like, I just fucking hate it. It's just like everything else. It's just people want to prejudge. They want to It's like... You can still do it. Okay, so like, right, I'm reading this Eileen Miles book about their rent-controlled apartment, and they were talking about when they moved in the 70s, not only were they doing it alone, but there was a sense of an us. And there was. That's the scene that I'm into, the second generation New York school thing, third generation, whatever, who had the rent-controlled apartments, who moved in the 70s. Greg. So in the book, Eileen Miles says, there was a sense of us. Now there's only three? And then when I die, there will be two. And I think there's more than three, to be fair. Because, like, they're still at the Poetry Project. Greg has got a rent-controlled apartment. Richard Hell fucking still does his thing. Don Yorty, I think, is a fucking rent-controlled. Probably Tom Savage, Eleanor. Like, there's more. They're still there. But that age, the boomers are getting to the age where their friends are all dying and whatnot. But point being with my situation is sort of a reboot of that, lacking a better idea and not knowing where it is today. And it does indeed, it exist. I mean, that's sort of one thing my book alludes to, is just like, where do you go? Do you go, where is it? Where is the us? Their situation was different. They could all get fucking apartments that cost $100 a month in the East Village. Like, Now the us is in Crown Heights or Bed-Stuy probably, but even that is dispersed everywhere, and everybody has to work all the fucking time, and it's like it's not. There's not the same sense of this organic community that can really be, like an MFA, right? They can do workshops, they can spend shitloads of time together, they can party together, they can drink together, they can really get to know each other, spend a few years together, all learning together, learning the same things, learning in unison. Those people are so, I mean, those bonds. It's like going in the fucking army or something. It's like you're bonded for life with your class. I went to Sarah Lawrence MFA. Me and we started a magazine afterwards. It's like, I just don't like how it just launches you. In fucking theater, you couldn't even audition. I remember seeing a poster for some kind of regional theater shit. You know, Kentucky fucking, or something like that. You know, Shakespeare thing. And it was like you couldn't even audition for it unless you had an MFA. I think if you had a BA, you could audition for like the fucking, you know, extra parts or whatever. But unless you, and that's how it was when I was in college. The MFAs were like, I didn't even know what that was when I got to college. I didn't know what a grad school was. I literally didn't. I thought like, I don't know, you go to college and then you graduate and you graduated college. And then if you want to be a doctor or something, like, I didn't know like your undergrad. What a fucked up term that is. Your bottom grad, their top grad. And the grad students get all the good parts. It's all about them. They got paid at Ohio State, and like as a fucking undergrad, you're not gonna get a lead in anything. No way. Like these are grad students. Like there's a lot of money being invested in them. I don't know what the fuck. They got admitted. They auditioned, or of course, the thing about MFA with writing is your sample and do you get in or not. I mean, I know a lot of people are trying to go right now because the pandemic just made everybody go, oh, well, I guess I'll go to grad school because fucking society stopped, you know, doing anything else, so why not go to school online or something? Get it out of the way while we're just like fucking sitting around. I haven't actually had that close of a relationship as far as discussing my own work as in a workshop type way with anybody, really. Like nobody fucking like goes through my poems and like makes notes and says, oh, I like this line, maybe you could do this. The workshops that I was in were like more like reading groups or one-time things where you didn't really, you know, it wasn't like a recurring thing. I haven't been in like a once a week, 3 hour, 10 week. I mean, in an MFA program, once again, it's a whole other thing. Like it's 2-3 years. So you're really getting bonded with these people and you go out in the world. So that they're in a social group already and they don't know who the fuck you are. And besides, they went to college together and shit. Like, how are you ever going to be as friends with them as they are with each other? Or what are your credentials? Who are you? Where did you go to school? I mean, it does kind of typify people. Like, I can tell somebody that went to Iowa. I can tell somebody that went to Columbia. I can tell somebody went to NYU. I can tell somebody went to fucking a state school or whatever. They all have kind of a house style. And it's a big part of the narrative because there's no way to make a living in a lot of ways as an artist. I mean, my friend who's a painter in Columbus, he works for the Wexner Center, which is a very prestigious, criminally funded money laundering scheme. Of course, Les Wexner. He's the Epstein. Hyman Roth. And then he does like murals. He paints like murals for like businesses and shit, or like corporate brands, And there's a lot of shit. Like PBR is gonna sponsor like artists to like paint PBR cans and shit like that. It's like that's the only. I mean, you can sell your paintings, I guess, and make a fucking put some shit together, but this is just a classic thing. The hostility of the country to the artists. And so Eileen Myles, the reason why they were able to have their career, I mean, not only just their own talent, let's say, but they also had a rent-controlled apartment that literally to this day probably cost $200 or something. And so regardless of what happened maybe professionally for them, they could still pay their fucking rent. They could still afford to live. A poet, you're ready to be reduced to kind of like very strict, astringent, not having a lot. That's kind of what it is, I think, in a certain way. I think it's just a personality adjustment, getting used to not having anything. So in a certain sense, my deprivation and my lack of success is the truest. I think I'm the truest. I think I'm like actually doing it. I'm like the last real motherfucker. I don't have any kind of professional bullshit. I'm not spayed and neutered. not domesticated. I don't have my shots. Well, I do have my shots, but I don't wear a collar in the house. It's a responsible decision, but the people that are making that decision are, I don't know how deeply they're questioning what they're learning. Or I'm sure they are, but they're volunteering and they're doing it anyway. Like, and who is making the decision, really? MFA, you're workshopping a manuscript probably most places, or like that's your goal, maybe to graduate with some kind of. But I'm sure it's just like anything. You do a workshop every week. You bring something in that prompt or whatever. The values they're teaching you, who decides that those are going to be the culturally accepted norm, and or just the things that are going to be bred into our writers, our sort of thinking class. These are the people that are going to write the stories, that are going to tell the narrative. How are we going to teach them to do it? And what is that going to reflect as far as like the government interest in how they want people to think? Because in a certain way, you don't have a lot of choice. I mean, those people. So Eileen Wright had a rent-controlled apartment. That's how they did it. They could make creative decisions also that were unaffected by, do I need this job, or is it? They could write what they want to write, at least a good amount of the time. That's one thing. Eileen Myles, one of the points of the book so far, is just rolling in time, having a lot. Their life has just been about having a lot of time and just feeling time like it's a substance. And the metaphor they use is like shit, like rolling in shit, time. Like a dog rolls in shit to get that smell. That's like, and so having the rent control apartment is really what provided that. Not really Eileen Miles' success as an artist. Like, I'm sure they did okay, but like, they're not. It would help any. I mean, so it would help anybody to have that burden taken off, and this is a common point of discussion amongst the young socialists on social media. That is that what is social media? Is that for socialist? Social media. The social media stands for socialist. Fuck, I need to tweet that. That's too good. I need to tweet it right now. Fuck, where's my hair? You're gonna see it. I'm gonna tweet live on the show. The social and social media stands for socialist. Okay, I don't know. See, I don't know. No one's gonna like that. I'm not effective on Twitter. They bury me. Well, so like this guy was talking about, right? Like get on YouTube, control the narrative, get the information out. That's what I try to do. That's why I'm on here, to give my 2 cents. I guess the people who the choir theoretically that I'd be preaching to, they probably have better preachers. I'm in the choir, I guess. I don't know. They don't need me, but I'm doing my part in the war effort against stupidity, ignorance, dark age. They have to put God in place. They have to elbow everything else out, and God has got to be. That's why they don't want Raphael School of Athens on TV, because if they have people thinking, if they have people who can decode the symbology and the meaning of the image, and people who have critical thinking skills, then they will question what they're trying to tell them. So I thought I'd get on YouTube and tell this way of things. I'm not sure what side I'm on. I'm on my own side. But check this out. Strategic Reality Dictionary. An hour and 42 minutes in. This Conrad Becker guy I did want to mention. He's kind of interesting. He was in Das Boot, I guess. He was an actor in the movie Das Boot. And I think he does some kind of music, some kind of avant-garde music. He's German, I think. So he's just got... and I don't know. I just love this book because it's sort of like guitar-y a little bit. But it's very, it's very good at assessing, kind of defining these systems that are controlling us, and just the technologies, the powers that be. The state is a symbolic bank or something. The central bank of symbolic credit. The state is the central bank of symbolic credit. So whatever it imbues. And it's just imaginatively how it organizes us and causes us to think as one. And it says these are our values and this is what we believe, and these people are our enemy, and respect the troops, and they fight for our freedom. They died. They gave the ultimate sacrifice. This is something that is just pounded in your head over and over again. It was on the Christian thing that I was watching. And so Conrad Becker, I'm imagining, so this came out, like I said, I found it on Unnameable for $3. And I don't find a lot of books like this, to be honest. It was unique in the way it was just so smart and so just like, oh yes, I've been thirsty for this exact, this is the truth of what's going on, deep info politics and cultural intelligence. And it was published by Auto No Media. I'm not exactly sure what but their address is in Williamsburg. So this was 2009 Williamsburg. So I don't know. I'm picturing that this guy lived in Williamsburg or the East Village when it was cool, writing this kind of shit, and that was what was going on. And they published it, and then now Williamsburg is a suburb for finance criminals. But gosh, I did want to talk more about my. See, the thing about my Pride experience was, it was like I said, my timing was so off. Last year or last week, there you go, exactly. So I think my Mercury was in retrograde again, and I've just been kind of doing shit all weird and out of order, and so I went out like, I don't even know, a bunch of days in a row this week, the last of which was Friday. I definitely went out Thursday and Friday, because Thursday was the day I met Eli, and we hung out for like a long time walking around. And then Friday I kind of did the same thing. So I was pretty tired on Saturday. And I just miscalculated, because this weekend is Pride weekend. And I didn't really realize, well, first of all, it was really hot. Like, it was really fucking hot. So it was like 95 degrees, or it was around 90, definitely. And it got over 90 during the day, both days, Saturday and Sunday. And so I just kind of thought, I was out last 2 days. I went out, and so I don't know. I'm just stay in today. It was dumb. It was so dumb, because it's Pride weekend. And fucking Stonewall is literally like 10 minutes away. And last night I wasn't even going to go anywhere. I was like, yeah, I'll just stay in, like, I need a couple days rest. I've been walking everywhere and going up and down the stairs, and I like to mix. I go out into the world some days, a few days a week, 3-4 days a week. I go out to events or go for long walks, maybe go to a different part of the city, maybe go to bookstores, whatever. But I also need to spend time here. I mean, this is one thing that wasn't the best, maybe, or about my timing, was how incredible would this have been to have through the pandemic. I could have just been inside reading. I finally have all my books and shit, but now the weather's nice and the pandemic's over. So I don't really want to be at home that much. I want to go out and be a part of life and see what's going on, and that's just been my prime pleasure recently, just going out into the world. That's what Lenny Kravitz said about Bob. He said Bob Dylan called him when he was in Paris. He was there for a gig, and I guess Lenny Kravitz might have an apartment there, of course, because Lenny Kravitz probably has the greatest life of anybody alive. And Bob Dylan called him up and said, hey, Lenny, you want to hang out? So he went over to his apartment, and they're sitting talking, and Bob goes, I want to go for a walk. So they go for a walk, but it's raining, and it's cold. So Lenny Kravitz and Bob Dylan are walking around Paris, and he's like, they sat on a bench in a park, and it was on Howard Stern. Howard's like, what the fuck? Why does Bob Dylan want to go for a walk in Paris? What's that about? And he's like, I don't know. I think Bob just likes being a person out in the world. And like, yeah, I was like, yeah, that's a good description of it. That's how I feel. I feel like I'm like Dylan. I feel like, I hope this is a good angle. I hope this doesn't look, maybe I should change it real fast. Yeah, I just like, and that's something Bob said on his show was songwriting. What's going on? He said, you want to write a song. Well, what's going on? Go outside, see what's going on the street. Listen to people, look at what they're doing. So that's what I do. I go out and I just want to be around. I want to hear interesting conversations. Not in like a creepy way, just like it's New York. That's one of the things. You just overhear this kind of cut up, surrealist collage of the people, yes. The vox populi coming at you from every way and And going out and walking through, and I mean, I have the best Rialto to stroll along in the fucking world. I can just cruise right down the dirty boulevard through the meatpacking, Hudson, Washington, Bleecker Park. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so great. Let me change this camera real fast. How's that? So yeah, last night, I don't know, around, it was late. Like I said, I wasn't even going to go anywhere. I think I went out around probably, it was after dark, 9 or 10. I thought, let me just go walk around. It'd be nice to go out it's kind of, I mean, it's because it's been so hot. So it's like, oh, it's too freaking hot. I'll go out at night, you know. Like in the summer, I think it's okay to be inside too. Like the year does kind of like flip back on itself. Where in the winter you got to be inside, right, because it's too cold. But in the summer, I think it's okay to be inside because it's too hot. So during the day, I can chill inside. I can read, and then the temperature breaks around 8 or 9. You go out at night, and just see what the night people are up to. You know, New York summer nights. You can't beat that. So I go out down to, and I sit in Bleecker Park, and, you know, there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Not too much. And then I go down to, I guess the first thing I would have saw is Cornelia Street. Well, I mean, of course I walked through fucking Sheridan Square, and it was like, tons and tons of people. But, it was 10 o'clock on Sunday night. So, I mean, it was still packed. It was still just like, there's probably 1,000 people, or hundreds, definitely. But I'm sure it wasn't like it was. I mean, I'm sure Saturday, and I was surprised because even Sunday seemed like the big day. Sunday seemed like there was the most shit going on, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry that I didn't do more, honestly, because it was amazing. And so I'm walking, and I see Cornelia Street. There's some fucking, I don't even know if it's a restaurant or what, but literally Cornelia Street is like full of people dancing to some super loud, like bassy, awesome music. It's just good vibe. It's just like positive. So I'm like, even though it's 10:30 or whatever, 11 on a fucking Sunday night, I'm like, all right. I clearly need to be a part of this. So I kind of make my way in, and, I start dancing a little bit, and you kind of get warmed up. And then, after a minute, I'm into it, and it's just like, and it was dope. I danced there for like probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, or maybe an hour. It's outdoors. That was another thing. It's like, I don't know, the Delta variant and shit, I'm a little bit wary. I do not, I mean, even though people are vaccinated and like this and that, I do feel a little wary about being totally unleashed and free about it. I mean, maybe that's dumb, but even psychologically, it prevents me from engaging as freely. I still can't kind of just like let go and just go into casual. I don't know. I'm a little paranoid about it. In bars and shit, like you're talking close to people, you're talking loud, people are yelling or singing, they're in each other's face. There's a lot of hygiene, not good thing. People sharing cigarettes or whatnot. But I wish I would have gone out more. I wish I would have gone out Saturday as well, because it was lit. I mean, it's just the zeitgeist right now. Everything is so on board that it's like, to be honest, that was like the most unrestrained public party that I've seen, because it was like Uh, it's something that, like, at least amongst people that want to be nice and good people, it's like one of the few things that we just kind of like are like, yeah, we support this. This is unreservedly good. Like, anything that is not white, straight, cis, like, we're not going to kink shame. We're not going to. Well, the other thing is there's a lot of fucking hot chicks. I mean, because, like I said, it's something that they don't feel threatened by. And they feel like it's trendy and it's culturally the zeitgeist, but it's not men. It's not straight piece of shit white bro. It's the opposite. It's queer. They're queer. Yes, of course I'm queer. I'm not like this fucking bro piece of shit. I'm like the cool arty people who are like of the zeitgeist. There's a hegemony amongst the educated almost in this country. It seems like individuality is expressed in these like collective terms. Like true individuality, like you have to be a type. You still have to be, and that's what I mean. It's like it's like a cookie cutter almost. Even of the subversive types. It's like an MFA is just like, well, here's how you become like a professionalized version of your brand. We're going to help you streamline that, define it, get published, get networked, get groomed, and do it the right way. So I saw, I mean, not to be gross about it, but like, I mean, it was beautiful. It was awesome. You know, like, that's not why I was there. I was just there to, like, because I'm still at a point where, I mean, first of all, dancing in Cornelia Street is just like, how many chances are you going to get to do that? And it's kind of the catharsis I wanted after Trump, right? People dancing in the street. And they were playing Taylor Swift shit. Never, ever, ever getting back together. Camp. Taylor Swift is camp, I would say. Country is like camp. Dolly Parton is that camp. Like Cowboy Curtis, I'd say that's camp. Which is sort of a little Nas X. Kind of resembling. And it's also just like, I want to go out and just like get lost with a group of people and like a collective energy, and like we're all moving and like we're signaling to each other that way through like and we're all, and like still like I'm doing my own thing. I'm not interacting with anybody. I'm kind of dancing with myself. And but I want to be with a group, and I want to, you know, because I don't know. I don't. There's still the virus, but it's outdoors as well. So I'm like, okay, this is safe, sort of. And honestly, I was more just like, okay, because here's the other thing is like, and not to put too fine a point on it, but I'm genuinely curious, just as sort of like a cultural thing, is like, I would say the majority of the people at that, and then I went to another one around the corner, another dance thing that was on Sheridan Square. almost everybody at that one was black, to be honest. And so I was just curious. And then as I was walking down Christopher afterwards, I stopped at another one up on Christopher and I think Hudson. Maybe it's Greenwich. And everybody who was partying and dancing. So it's like literally the party is this guy's got like a convertible and just like some super fucking bassy awesome sound system. So there's literally just a convertible pulled over to the side of Sheridan Square and super loud, whatever the fuck. I mean, the DJs are good. That's why I was doing it, because they're actually playing good shit. Like, they know how to throw a fucking party. It's not like, oh God, the fucking Niagara DJ just sucks. Like, this music was fucking popping. They played some Nicki Minaj shit. So it's like super bassy, and then literally just like women just like doing that thing where they like, are on the car and like, their backside is just kind of like flying. It's like, I was more just kind of, the energy of it. It's just like so free. And it's just like so like, and the dance, not to be like stereotypical about it, but like certain people who are dancing, like not to be stereotypical, but like gay men or African American people, like they're good at fucking dancing. Like they're like, there's more like hinges in the mechanism. It's more like prehensile. It's more like there's more articulations. You feel the rhythms within the rhythms by watching another person dance. So that, I go out and dance with these white people, and their energy is just so, all these tech people, these finance people, like going to Fiddlesticks or going to fucking Niagara, their energy is just like, it's like a damp candle. It's just like that. You have to like power the light bulb and like bring the light into there. That's not how it was at this. It's just like everybody's vibing, everybody's having a good time. They're giving energy. Everybody's energy is just kind of like, people are smoking huge joints. It's like, yes, these are my people. It's fucking Sunday, 11 o'clock at night. We're smoking huge joints. We're dancing in the middle of fucking Cornelia Street. Like, yes, this is exactly what the fuck. Like, yeah, this is what we should be doing. This should be life. Like, let's do this every weekend. And I don't know, the cops did not really seem that trying to break it up at all, to be honest. Like, they kind of just left it alone, which is good and the right thing to do. So I was more kind of just, that was what was fun about it, is it just felt like I could actually like get free, elevate, get into my body, actually feel good. And the music sounded great. The systems were super great. And you're outside, and it's like, it wasn't really like a creep thing for me. I wasn't like going to like, although I did notice certain things. I mean, oh my God. There were two girls that were dancing that were just like, and they start, you could tell there was like flirtation and kind of heat, but they were kind of, I mean, just dancing for like, 2 hours, and they look like grad students. They look like, smart fucking, like, the way that New York society has like forced these fucking women and it prefers that women look like, the classic model thing, whatever, tall, skinny, smart looking, severe, and whatever. They look like smart fucking hot grad students or whatever. And so I could feel like kind of like they're like flirting, and then like at one point they just like started making out with each other. And then they kind of like ended up against this wall, and it was just like, I wasn't, like I wasn't really watching. I'd check in from time to time. I'd be like, oh my God. Like, this is the hottest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, like I said, I wasn't staring, or it was just something I kind of noticed. I'm a noticer. That's my job. I'm an avid describer. See, I don't feel like I'm explaining. In my KGB reading, I kind of slipped up and I said that thing about how I liked explaining, which maybe was a Freudian slip and is true, of course. But I don't consider it explaining. I consider it describing. We're just noticing and we're describing. I'm not a mansplainer. I'm a manscriber. I'm manscribing, not mansplaining. I'm not explaining. I don't mean. It's not like this is it. This is an interrogative. This is a query. This is an exploratory monologue. This is an expedition trying to think out loud, trying to figure it out. To no viewership. This is why YouTube buries me in the algorithms. This is why I have no viewers. And I do think this is true. I was watching, I should have viewers. People should be, this is valuable information. I'm as good as fucking whoever that, Glenn Greenwald or whoever the fuck that guy is. I was on Twitter, right, before, as I do. I need to get off it. I mean, it's really fucking up my mental health and my just IRL relationships. But I'm on Twitter and okay, so I'm checking out one of my friends who I enjoy their work. I'd like to see their tweets. And to be honest, I just thought they didn't use Twitter hardly ever. I just thought they never tweeted anything. And they, for whatever reason, I looked at their profile and I'm scrolling down and I'm like, they tweet every day, maybe twice. Funny shit, too. It's how am I not seeing this? I literally get on Twitter once an hour average at least. Over time. At least. If not more. I'm on Twitter, especially if I'm at home. This is one reason why it's good for me to go out and go for walks and stuff. Because being at home, yesterday, I was just I was kind of tired because I was up so late. I've been up real late doing this stuff. And so I was just in bed all day, and I couldn't really read, and I couldn't really do stuff. So it's what am I going to do? I'm going to roll over, get on my phone, and, it's just easy. I got to sit up and read a book. That's hard. Just give me Twitter. And I literally never see any of this guy's tweets. I can't believe it. Because they're excellent. They're exactly why I'm on Twitter. To me, right, I follow certain people because I want to see their content. That's the point of the fucking app. That's why I follow them. That's why I choose to follow them. Otherwise, why do it? Instead, Twitter shows me very little of the people I follow, and then it suggests certain things, and then I don't even know what the fuck it's showing me because I literally never see any of this guy's tweets. The algorithm decides what I want to see or what's going to keep me engaged. But I really enjoy, I'm scrolling through it. I'm like, these are great. He's tweeting every fucking day. And they're actually tweets. They're not retweets. They're not political thing. It's it's funny lines and shit. I'm like, I can't believe I'm not seeing this. And I just think, I gotta believe the whole fucking thing works that way. They know that where they've got you is who sees your stuff, and that controls who likes it, because if somebody doesn't see it, they're not going to like it. And I literally never see any of this guy's tweets. It's shocking, actually. I'm shocked. What is the fucking point of getting on the goddamn thing? I want to see the people I'm following. Just make it chronological. Show me all of the tweets of the people I'm following, and don't show me anything else. Please. If they retweet something, okay, then I'll see it. I don't need the suggestions. Oh, this Real Mr. Movies follows this person. You might want to follow. Fuck off. You know nothing about me. Don't pretend like you know me. Fucking algorithm. Fucking algorithm. This is my op-ed. It's my Citizens Band public radio. Frankly Fabulous public radio. Radio Free Proctor. So yeah, then I go around the corner to Sheridan Square after the Cornelia thing. I just kind of, I was there and I was like, okay, I'm ready to go on. And so I'm walking down Sheridan, and then all of a sudden there's even more people. And like I said, there's a convertible right in front of the Gristettis. The whole street is blocked with people, and I'm like I said, there's women on the big beautiful women on the car. And just like this one girl's got jean shorts and she's got like these tassels, and they're like rainbow tassels. So it's just like, up on the hood, whatever. I'm just thinking, this is freedom. This is amazing. Like, here I am at fucking after midnight Sunday. And there was one woman that was completely naked. Walking down, what is that? Is that 4th Street? Like, literally. From head to toe. I think she may have been wearing shoes. This black woman was walking. I was like, that's fucking freedom. God bless you. You are awesome. Not even in a sexual way. I wasn't even like sexualizing it. It was just like, could you imagine? Would you walk all these people around? Like, and so I'm dancing, I was basically just dancing. And when other people are actually getting into it and doing fun shit, and like, the guys in rainbow shirts are like doing amazing shit, and like, so I'm like, yeah, this is where it's at. Like, this is fun. The breeze was nice. The summer night up there. Then I walked further down Christopher Street just to, just to see. There were people, just all hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. After midnight. And so I don't know, not like I said, not to put too fine of a point on it, but I'm just curious about, well, almost all the people on Christopher Street were black. And so the allegiance and the sympathy and the solidarity with Pride, I think is cool. The fact that culturally it's, or I don't know, not to generalize, but like, that that's important. That's something they identify with. That's what, there were almost no white people. And it's like, it was Sunday night. I don't know, like, why the lack of I'm sure during the day it was a whole different story, maybe, but is that intersectionality? I think you do see, Marsha P. Johnson, right? This was something maybe I'll read. Maybe I'll do the reading at the end. Marsha P. Johnson started the riot at Stonewall. This was a black trans woman. Right? Marsha P. Johnson, is that the name? That's right, isn't it? It's just more culturally accepted, or I don't know. RuPaul's Drag Race. Who's Billy on Pose or whatever that show is? Billy. I don't know. I don't really follow television that closely. Billy Porter. and like our also aesthetic and artistic excellence. Like I said, a lot of people were dressing fucking super cool. I mean, just like the whole creativity. Uh, the genius in movement and bodily. But this is related. So let me read this, and this will maybe talk about. 623, the future of now. Did I read this? I'm not sure if I did. The future of now is getting paintings with you tomorrow. Bi-coastal lifestyle from George Leong. Cash and carry. Met my new friend Bethany in the tomato garden at Waverly Triangle. She lives on 6th Ave and 8th Street and has for 2 years. The cops stole her books last night. In the winter, she sleeps in a stairwell on 9th Street the building knows about and is cool with. She says the bouncer at Duplex told her we don't want people like you around here. Oh yeah, Bethany scoffs. On Christopher Street, Stonewall was started by trans homeless women. I ask if she travels around the village a lot. No, she mostly stays where she lives, 6th Avenue and 8th Street. We talk for 20 to 30 minutes and walk up from 7th up Waverly to her home. Not homeless, but urban camping, as she likes to call it. Yeah, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because there is a... Anywhere I go, I'm invisible. As complimentary as dismissal. Flower van. Marsha P. Johnson was murdered and her murders were never investigated. Sylvia Rivera died while homeless in 2002. No social media accounts, no email, no cell phone. Friends in the neighborhood let me get mail at their address. Actors talk to me, famous people. Used to be Liquiteria. They went out early in the pandemic. Old friends sitting on park benches like bookends. So yeah, these are just various things that... I mean, I'd like to read this whole thing, but I did want to talk about this specifically because this refers to... and I think I went into this in one of the episodes. I met a trans woman named Bethany in Waverly Triangle. I don't know what the park is officially called, but that was the story she was telling me about. Stonewall's started by trans homeless women, and then Marsha P. Johnson was murdered, and her murders were never investigated. Sylvia Rivera died while homeless in 2002. No social media accounts, no email, no cell phone. Friends in the neighborhood let me get mail at their address. Actors talk to me, famous people. Used to be Liquiteria. They went out early in the pandemic. So yeah, this was all stuff that Bethany had said. She doesn't have a cell phone, no social media. She knows some people in the neighborhood that like people that walk their dogs and shit. Some of them are very friendly. And so, like, these people let her get mail at their address, I guess, somewhere in Greenwich Village. Like I say in this, she lives on 6th Avenue and 8th Street. And the cops stole her books. That was something she mentioned. And she was saying something about the bouncer at Duplex. Kicked her out or wouldn't let her in or something. Said, we don't want your kind here. We don't want people like you around here. How fucked up is that? In 2021, Chase Bank with their Pride fucking campaign. They don't want people like that. It's hurting their real estate values. There's a Chase Bank right there. That taco truck I go to a lot. Maybe I'll close out and do more of a reading. Let me sit and I'll do a little reading. curious about this piece. I'm curious about this fucking longer piece that I wrote, because I don't, a lot of that sounds like exact transcriptions of dialogue, and I don't remember writing it while I was talking to Bethany. I thought I had written it, later, at some point. It's like you gotta go at least 3 hours to cover even what you're fucking talking about. I didn't even really get into what defines the MFA industrial complex, what those qualities are. It's hard to say, but they are prevalent, I'd say, at this point. Amongst people who are trained, it's just a shame. You can't really develop over time. It kind of rushes that and forces it. It's almost like forcing a fucking piece of fruit to grow or something. Let's get a shitload of sunlight so it'll grow faster. Bought a second copy of One of a Kind, Michelin book, $6 at the Strand. Kicking myself because I paid $7 for a water damaged copy at a Nameable just a few weeks ago. Did I read this stuff already? I'm not sure. This copy cheaper and in great shape, so I'll have one to keep and one to read with me as I take it carefree throughout the city to study as I walk and stroll up the Rialto, Hudson, Greenwich, Washington, Jane. The trees on my street, the park around the corner, the school at recess on the playground, across the street all day in the morning, dancing in wet dabs of black paint, eggplant water balloons popping like gushers, editing room Tanqueray and tonic. She hasn't texted me back, changed her profile pic to hurt my feelings. Are they playing Dodger game? Maybe I did read this. Are they playing Dodger games at Dodger Stadium or just vaccinations? Jokes seem cruel. The yucca is real. Trading Coast, Green Beret in California. Garbage cans, steep steps, iron railing, gas neon sign. Summer residency across open mics. Meeting Eli and Mel southeast by the fountain. Northeast entrance of University Place, surprisingly pleasant. I'm discovering this road which feeds south off of Union Square, in which I took for granted. We'll definitely be attending some of your curated readings outdoors in Bryant Park. This copy cheaper and in great shape, so I'll have one to keep and wonder. Oh, I read that. Tuesday starting with Wayne Kalstenbaum. Shit. We'll definitely be attending some of your curated readings outdoors in Bryant Park. Tuesday starting with Wayne Kalstenbaum. Need readings to go to every night of the week now that we're on the other side. Dystopian no-go zone. Lighting the incense and spending a spiritual night inside. Hart Grain is a relevant influence to many in my age group, which has all but surpassed and established itself in definite hierarchies of professional worth and talent. Persona non grata, a decade older, the balding grass fallen and torn like the hair of a line cloak from the stress of years on the job. Another month goes by. Whoosh. Things are picking back up. Maybe go see Alice Neal exhibit at the Met with Eli tomorrow, or walk around, take photographs. That might be better, more laissez-faire. Mark Hoppus, the bassist singer from Blink-182, has been undergoing chemotherapy for 3 months, cancer treatment. The park is near the White Horse. It has his back now to it. I wonder who's on the patio. Nobody yet. And how I ended up here. Financial anomaly, put the laundry out on the line. Ubu Web check-in, nobody even looks at me. Anywhere I go, I'm invisible, as complimentary as dismissal, flower van. Marsha P. Johnson was murdered and her murders were never investigated. Sylvia Rivera died while homeless in 2002. No social media accounts, no email, no cell phone. Friends in the neighborhood let me get mail at their address. Actors talk to me, famous people. Used to be liquidaria, they went out early in the pandemic. Old friends sitting on park benches like bookends. This park is like a diner. Booths with tables perpendicular facing the aisle of bleaker sidewalk, then a wide floor and more tables perimetering the rim. Free public leisure, no money down. That's a skill a spy would have, Turkish girl on Hinge tells me, and I start to like her too much. It's been too long to message her back. Walk by SVA Gallery on way to Trader Joe's. Heard my neighbor having an orgasm through the wall the other day, Sunday. Tuned to Tuesdays at 9, best at dating playwrights, Carnegie Mellon grads, degrees in difference from Ivy Columbia, supposedly genius Harvard, compliant tech and finance criminals, nothing intelligent about their hearts. I'm not even a poet out here on the skin of the lamb. Got to get out of New York City before New York City lands on me. Modern Sodom and Gomorrah, no big deal. Lovely roseate lofted sunset, golden molten hot lava peach, drizzling down the oculus, memory laning my back window. Escaping to minor dimensions to hide from the march of jaggernauts. The Broadway yellow taxi, theater major from Gambier Kenyon College. I could have made it easy, but was told to underestimate myself based on a worldwide scheme to emotionally mutilate us so we'll feel sexually intimidated as to be kept in a constant state of buying, which never fills the hole and is about as satisfying as getting laid. I feel like I should read that again. Escaping to minor dimensions to hide from the march of the jaggernauts, the Broadway yellow taxi, theater major from Gambier. I could have made it easy, but was told to underestimate myself based on a worldwide scheme to emotionally mutilate us, so we'll feel sexually intimidated as to be kept in a constant state of buying, which never fills the hole and is about as satisfying as getting laid. Will threaten suicide in effort to guarantee more likes. Mismanage my fortune. Clash tenses, it's cubist. Faint trace my line drawing you're tracing. His shack by the dunes. The cafeteria playlet chatters in characters on a hexagonal pattern of sides. We had Tarantula, we had Songs of the Damned. It had an effect. The rape was nearby and many years later ended her life. Worst day imaginable to a mother. Punch to the gut, sucker punch. Have to keep your guard on the street. Worried I'll get killed in my sleep. Someone was going around murdering homeless people. Angel came among us as a spy from God to take notes on what they could retain. Incorporeal data, what they saw, what they heard, what they went through, what it all felt like. My conclusions barely scratch the surface, and they're all I have. Even in the 1920s, they were living in Brooklyn. So those lines, worried I'll get killed in my sleep. Someone was going around murdering homeless people. This is something that Beth said, because she sleeps on the street. And the anti-homeless, the anti-homeless rhetoric in our society is just like pretty one-sided and unfair is an understatement. Like, they're not even considered people because they don't have jobs. And so whatever happens to them on the street amongst the elements, well, that's their fault. They need to get a job. They need to get rehabbed so they can get a job, clean up, get a place. They're not good enough as they are. They need to be economically part of the machine, or else you become homeless. You become truly marginalized, pushed out of the strictures of domestication and polite society. And so this is a real fear that Beth lives with. You know, on the one hand, how incredible is it to meet a person, especially living in New York City, in Greenwich Village, right? 6th Avenue and 8th Street. No phone, no email, no anything. and they're worried they might get killed at night. Sleeping, I mean, they don't get to sleep. You couldn't sleep there. No fucking way. There's like a James Agee like quality. Like Walker Evans. Is this going to be all weirdly like, okay. Angel came among us as a spy from God to take notes on what they could retain in corporeal data, what they saw, what they heard, what they went through, what it all felt like. My conclusions barely scratch the surface, and they're all I have. 624, Diamond Bullets. The summer after September 11th, I got my heart broken for the first time. 627, Sustainable Abstraction. On the dirty boulevard, air conditioner bricks, metatarsal taxis, gaming the system. Eating an armored truck. The human mind can be destroyed by insanity. And then 628, op-ed. So this brings us up to speed. This is I literally wrote this as I was preparing. Op-ed. I was the smart kid at the dumb school. So, I could turn that into some 5-minute long poem or something. But doesn't that says enough. I was a smart kid at the dumb school. And then I'll read this one. 627, Housebroken. So mad I forgot about the Gerard Malenga reading and screening in Elizabeth Street Garden, an almost villa-like environment with green plants twining and overrunning concrete and marble sculpture and cast-iron patio furniture, an apt setting for the poet's Renaissance quality and clarity of work, like clear sunlight on stone chiseled with classical proportion. I'm wearing my visor for pride. Do they like their holiday and celebration has been taken over by straight capitalists? I've never felt gayer in my life than this year. And I don't know, just to elaborate on that. I mean, it's always, at least since the 90s, I definitely remember rainbow flags and parades, and Pride has always been a big thing in Columbus. Pride weekend. And I don't know, I always felt cool with that culture because, I'm in theater, or I was thinking the other day about when I was 19 or 20, I can't remember what year, 2004, 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. Jack's girlfriend, Holly, who worked at WNCI, she did musical theater. She was in a production of The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas at Access Nightclub, which was, and I don't know if this term is still used or acceptable, but it was a gay bar or a nightclub in the Short North, the neighborhood that got super gentrified. But this was kind of early on in that process. At that point, it was still like a little bit less of a culturally mainstream thing. And he got me a job. I played rhythm guitar. I played my acoustic guitar in the pit orchestra of The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. And it was campy production. The movie's got what? Dolly Parton, Hard Candy Christmas. And is Burt Reynolds in the movie? I'm not sure. Or Charles Durning, is he in? I think he's in the movie, maybe. I don't really remember. She's poor. I don't remember. There's some guy that. But it was campy, and it was queer, definitely. It was that club was nice. It was big. They had a big dance floor, big stage. We were sitting over by the bar, and the audience was kind of on the dance floor, all sitting at cocktail tables, and probably 50 or 60 people coming out. So I played in the pit orchestra. I had sheet music that I really didn't know how to read, but they had the chords on it, so I could do the chords, even though I didn't really know what like the timing was. I could kind of, the songs are just like country songs for the most part, so I could kind of follow. I think I Will Always Love You may have been in it. But that was it. I think I got paid $150. The musical director was gay. In no way, shape, or form was it like uncomfortable or anything for me. Like, it was a fun experience. It was a great experience. It was theater. Like I said, a lot of the people I knew in theater were queer and gay, and I love them. They're my friends. They're my collaborators. And but also, I think with Trump, it did create this like friction and wall where if you thought you're cis het white straight, you're just like you're automatically the bad guy, and you're hated, and so it created an opposition that really wasn't. I mean, at least I recognizing now my attitude towards it through like this was through college. Anytime from 2003 on, I was in theater stuff. So it was it was just, and it was not a, I mean, it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, it was great. It wasn't something I even thought about, really, to be honest. But I realize now I probably could have been more, just in general, like less self-centered as a person within the context of the plays. I think it wasn't necessarily like that I thought I was better than everybody else. It was more just like it can be hard to socialize, and particularly in a play. It's like you're in rooms with people for weeks and weeks and weeks, day after day, 4 hours a day. It's like making small talk, getting to know people really fast and break the ice. Particularly in college, it wasn't that easy. With actors theater stuff I did, which was like more professional, I felt comfortable, and I felt like less like college was like it was like high school in that there was a lot of competitiveness and just like ego games and people being insecure and hierarchies. There's like a seniority. This is another thing I have with poetry in like New York is it's like high school, and there's like a seniority. You do feel like you're just kind of waiting in line, and it's no fun to be the underclassman. I never knew how to do it, to be honest. If I'm not given like an authority position, I don't really know how to engage in a social activity. I kind of become like a loner and sort of go off and do my own. And I don't know, like I'm kind of distant. So it wasn't like I was but there are people that I wish I would have been like maybe better friends with, for instance. Or like in this one play I did, the character I played had a personal assistant type, like valet, and it was this really wonderful actor and just a great person, hugely talented, so goddamn, just a great person, just light and just amazingly talented at moving, and just like had just like a dancer's body, just a perfect, beautiful, and he played like my assistant, right? So the character I was playing was super supposed to be like egomaniac rock star who this is my sister. The director gave me a direction early on about like, don't even think about, they're just like, you're a rich person. You have a sense of entitlement. You don't give a fuck about. So I don't know. I think I kind of like, not that I took that attitude toward that actor, but like I kind of like, I could have bonded with them more. And we were friends, and we were even like, there was an acknowledged like closeness, or like, you know, separate kind of connection that we had. But I don't know. I could have, because he was a black gay actor, and he was, and I think he loved movement, and I think he loved dance, and that came into the character. He would do amazing things with his legs, and it was like, you know, I've always been progressive. I've always been like, but I also don't want to dehumanize a person and deduce them to that. Like, oh, this is my, you know, your X, Y, and Z on social whatever, credit or identifier, metadata. It was just like, but I did see on Facebook, he works, and he has worked, I saw that he's worked at the Apple Store for a while. He's opened, or he worked at the one, you know, a couple of them in Columbus. He's like some kind of higher up manager person. And his post was super, like, you know, positive and like kind of corporate about how he loved working for Apple, and he, you know, he's been to these different locations, and he's getting transferred to Nashville, I think. And so for, you know, it's a huge thing, like, to move from Columbus to Nashville. So I liked it. I liked the post. I'm happy for him. I think that's really cool. But once again, it goes back to this thing where, like, these are the jobs people are offered, these retail jobs. Like, how good of a job is that, I wonder? And yet he's got this total loyalty and total appreciation, and, like, he's a college graduate. He's a talented guy. Like I said, really an incredible dancer and mover, and just, like, an amazing physique. And that's kind of the thing I'm talking about. Is like, as an artist, he should be getting paid to do that, frankly. I mean, it's cool that he works at an Apple store, and like, but once again, you get an MFA and you go that route, or what, you do community dance stuff. What's your I mean, a lot of the people I worked with. Richard Mason, one of my mentors, was a gay black man. Like, he was very good to me. He paid me to fucking, with this camera, I'd film his acting class. He paid me $100 to drive him. He didn't have a license. So I'd drive him to the class, and I'd film the thing. He'd pay me $100. Basically what I'm doing now. Essentially, my karmic level I'm at, I guess, is exactly the same. I'm doing the exact same shit, lugging my camera to film a thing for $100. Sort of a non-profit arts thing, I guess. You do it for the greater good. You do it for the love of beauty and truth. I thought there was one more thing I needed to mention. That's not to say that it was better. I'm saying it was a problem that it wasn't, like, it's good now that there's actual power. It's good that as the dinosaurs, or the Harold Blooms kind of fade, the thing that's coming in is not just singularly the seat of power is white, straight men, art, voice, optic, narrative, gaze. But at the same time, you wonder, like, are they just kind of shuffling the optic? And once again, with like these retail positions, and the fact that, like I was saying, I was talking about the other day, the transformation of slavery from what it was into not only prison labor, but also these retail positions. Like, their minimum wage, it's not a living wage. I mean, maybe you're not getting fucking whipped or something, but like, you're physically suffering. You're on your feet. Your body is taking a toll. It's a torture, I'd say. It's a form of mental torture. All of these jobs. And so like I said, with the labor market, what I see is a lot of the retail jobs or honest jobs, let's say. Honest, hard work. Things that aren't really privileged, let's say. Like retail, you got a uniform, you've got the brand. That's kind of what Conrad Becker is talking about, the central bank of symbolic credit. When you create these things, suddenly working for McDonald's feels like it has this power and esteem, when in actuality you're getting totally fucked as a worker. You're not making shit. But the symbolic credit, you don't have benefits. I mean, it's greasy in there. It's hot. It's just bad. It's just bad. It's just a toxic environment. And to me, that's a transformation, like, of the same power structure. It's just now it's wage labor. But the jobs on the bottom are, the economic hierarchy is still color based. It's still racial. That's part of what we're breaking down. And I think it's starting to happen. I think, let's say the pandemic was like a crack. It was like now the thing is going to start to splinter and break apart. But the pandemic was like the seismic episode, the tectonic shift. Let's hope for a better thing. But I partially think, okay, so I was walking down Christopher, and this will be the last thing. Further down Christopher, I got to Hudson or whatever, and like literally the whole fucking, right where Bedford is, where that Theater de Lis is, where I wrote my piece. Right where Bedford ends at Christopher, packed. Hundreds and hundreds of people dancing. Most of them black. At like, I think it was probably 12:30 or 1 last night. And these people on Bedford are trying to turn left onto Christopher because it's the only way out for them, because they're trying to get on Hudson, get out, and the street is entirely blocked. And so, they're honking. There's a cab, and he's trying to like make his way through the fucking like sea of people. And there's this cab, and all of a sudden this guy gets on top of it. And he's twerking and he's dancing on top of it and shit. And on the one hand, that was like an image of total freedom to me. And then on the other hand, I'm thinking, oh God, the poor cab driver. This guy's going to fuck his roof up. And then all of a sudden, like, 4 people are jumping up on the cab and like dancing around. I'm like, oh my God. This must be a nightmare for this guy. Like, that's going to cause, $1,000 worth of body damage or something. They could crush him. I don't know. He doesn't. Poor guy. He's just at work. But I think also, I mean, maybe this is just hearsay, or I mean, obviously armchair philosophy, but I do think that there was like a kind of liberation that happened last summer, and people taking to the streets, and especially in New York, I think that's still here. And like this thing with Washington Square Park, and just in general, the cops trying to bully people off the streets. And I mean, is Portland, is there insane shit? I know it's really hot. Is there some kind of insane? But you know, I mean, obviously it was Pride, but it was 1 o'clock on Sunday. Like the thing was basically way over, and still people are just partying so hard. I mean, the music was loud, the street was still packed with people, just like all drinking, smoking huge joints. It was awesome. Keep it going. I want that. Let's have more of the streets are ours. That's the point of all of my thing. The MFA, the institution, it's outlawed to us. We have to pay rent to be in a fucking apartment. Look at Beth, lives on the goddamn street. No phone, no fucking, none of that shit. Like, the streets are where I learned. Doing an open mic, walking down the streets with poets, going to the park, public space, cafe life. I was thinking about this earlier too. Even in college, I was thinking about, well, why didn't I develop as an artist quicker? And I was just thinking, there was so much like suppression around me and diffusion, and just like there was no place for me to work. I had no setup. I had no solitude. I had no, and I didn't know how to do it either. I had no, I think that's one reason why, like, with all these fucking Paris reviews and shit, they're always asking writers, well, when do you write? Do you have an office? What are your conditions? Because, like, there is no condition in our society for how to do this. It's not like a job, here's the office, will pay you. It's like you have to completely come up with your own desk, space, hours, how you do it, what works for you, how much you write, what tools you use, what pens you use a computer, do you use a, and that's class, that's economic, it's labor, it's the distribution of goods, it's all of it. And I mean, I'm blessed, obviously, but I would say the initial places I had to work, I mean, I worked at home in spite of the fact that on McLean, I had a pretty nice room that I could use as a studio. Not that I was like, I mean, my stepdad definitely did not want me to sit at home all day. He was like, go outside, go work. So it wasn't good in that sense, but like, and that was just like stepdad teenage version of what our society tells you just in general, which is like, what the fuck are you doing sitting around the house all day? Like, writing a book? Yeah, okay. Go fucking rake the leaves. Go, like, clean out the garage. Go get a shitty job where you make hardly no money and get abused and exploited, because that's life. That's the shitty deal we're all taking. But the place that I did work was cafe, or, I mean, I was in the worst. I would go to cool public spaces, like whatever, a cafe apropos, but you have to find a cafe. I mean, that's Starbucks. Starbucks is the fast food version of freelance office space, or like student. It's just like coffee house, beatnik, intelligentsia, salon, bohemia, denuded of all of that and sort of corporatized. It's Starbucks. Like, you go there, you might have a meeting with like some business person for like an hour or something, but it's not like you're smoking dope and like drinking an espresso and like writing your poetry, although that's what I did. That's kind of my point, is like I was like in these weird corporate spaces. I'd go to the Barnes and Noble fucking cafe, or fucking Panera. Panera is kind of another version of Bohemia. They play Mozart and shit, so it's like supposed to be like Vienna, right? Maybe. And it's like the Frasier. It's my favorite metaphor of restaurants, where like it's a simulacrum or a corporate facsimile of bohemian sitting around getting high on caffeine and, talking passionately with your friends about poetry. That's how political organization happens too. Trotsky and people like that that's cafe society, that's cafe life. Trotsky lived in the village, and that goes hand in hand, I think. That's why they want to defunkify and sort of corporatize these spaces and streamline them and economize them, just like everything in our public life. Time is commodified, of course, and branded and packaged, and it's almost like coaxial or something now. And there's so much confusion and so much debilitating things about how we spend it. We don't even know how. We don't know how to create the circumstances of our own destiny, because there are so many things trying to thwart that, and so many just needless, brainless things getting in our way. And so, taking back the streets, and like last night, dancing in the street, running up on cabs, and just saying, hey, we're going to dance till fucking 2 a.m. It's Stonewall. We out here. We outside. This guy was walking around. So in addition to the music, a guy was literally walking around pulling a portable PA, just like saying shit. I thought, you got it. And he's like, we outside. We fucking outside. We not inside. That's the streets. That's how I learned everything. That's the real New York school. Pounding the pavement. Motoring around in your sneakers. Your Chuck Taylor All-Stars. Your Vans. Your Gucci, your Manoli Blahniks. Your Nikes. Your Converse, your Keds. Payless. It's my favorite. Starberries. That's the greatest shoe I've ever had. Cuban heels, cowboy boots, high heels, stilettos. Jimmy Choo. Steel-toed boots. Timberlands. Crocs. Flip-flops. Roller skates. Hoverboards. Now everybody's on hoverboards. That's the 21st century, right? The guy flying down the street wearing headphones on a goddamn hoverboard. Oh, that guy's playing golf up on his fucking roof again. It's just all bought and paid for. That's what I hate about it. If you want to grow, if you want to advance, it's a lot less painless, I think, to have these paths laid out for you via MFA. And I mean, especially with something like poetry, it's not like the proof is in the pudding. It's not like a painting where people see it and they go, wow, this guy can really fucking draw. That looks like a real thing. Or a lot of it is just negative space. And kind of obtuse, purposeful losing, throwing the game. It's my forte. Psyching myself out, having the yips, not being able to go for the kill. I don't have enough of that corporate capitalist killer instinct. I'm not ambitious enough. I'm ambitious, but I'm not. Part of my ambition is what refuses to do these MFA things. It's like it's got I didn't apply ever before. Long Island University, honestly, is the only place I ever applied to get an MFA, and I did it all. I sent in my transcripts and all of that shit, recommendation, the whole deal, the whole classist gateway bullshit, sample, all of it. I don't even know where I'd go. If I was going to look now, I guess I'd try the new school, but I don't think there's any way they'd take me at this point. My friend, he said the other day he got rejected from Brooklyn College, which I think he applied at the wrong place, to be honest. I don't think he's really a Brooklyn College guy. I think if he would have applied at the new school, maybe he would have got in. Brooklyn College is like, I guess I'm not that familiar with fucking what goes on there, but I think Ben Lerner, does he teach there? Like, my buddy, I don't even know if he is my buddy. I guess he probably isn't, but he's not really he's more like he's like a funky painter dude. Like, Ben Lerner's kind of a square, and he's basically an academic. He's like the university approved Ashbury kind of copy for the 21st century, the post 9/11. And then what am I? I feel like I'm kind of like part of this vintage. Like, I'm one of these poets. Like, when I look at my peers, I do feel like a weird similarity. Like, reading this fucking Eileen Miles book and fucking, big thanks to Adam Fitzgerald. And seeing Adam Fitzgerald on the street. It's like, and then Adam Fitzgerald's at the Erica Hunt reading, sitting next to Erica Hunt. It's like, this guy's the devil or something. I don't know. He's clearly like just beating me to every possible, like, obvious ambition I would have. And so I am like this peripheral outsider, deprived POW. I feel like I've been in a POW camp for like my entire adult. Does everybody feel that way? Like, I feel like I've been in a POW camp for like a decade at least. Really, my whole adult life. Maybe not quite so much as a child. That was a different kind of camp. How much deprivation, how much loss, how much failure, how much rejection, people not taking you seriously, other people's success. It's really, to be honest, it's a girl. Girls just go for guys with jobs and credentials and shit because they buy the bullshit. And that's my real motivation. I am what I am. I don't have any of that stuff. I'm playing with a wooden tennis racket, You like me for me. And you be the judge. You have to figure it out. So, I've been disappointed thus far. Nobody really wants the magic of me because I don't have a goddamn MFA. But if I did, probably women would be all over me. If I had social position in this world, like the path is so obvious. The path is clear to get there. But I mean, for me personally, I don't at this point what MFA program would take me. There's some chance that because of like my history of what I've published or my magazine or the work I've done in my association with the Poetry Project, I could maybe get in by virtue of that stuff and just the fact that I'm a lot older. But I mean, not that this is a value judgment, but the fact that I'm a white guy and my friend who applied was also a white guy, it's like, that's not, obviously it's worked in your favor for most of human history, but it's not like it was. Like, I know more than a couple white guys, straight, just normal dudes who have MFAs from the new school, but they got them in like 2008, 2010, 2011. It's like, that's not who they're trying to get now. In fact, it's going to make them look bad. If they're promoting some straight white dude, it's going to make them look like What the fuck? They're out of lockstep. So that's a part of it too. Even though I'm sure the MFA thing was very unfair and hard for not white, straight guys up until very recently, it has started to change. And certainly a place like NYU or Columbia, they can get whoever they want. And so they're not only going to pick the best writers, but they're going to pick the best writers from, especially who aren't white guys. So it's already competitive, right, to get into one of these fucking programs. And just my style, I know enough about myself. I like what I'm doing, frankly. The only frustrating part is, like I said, girls will date a guy who has that and just everything that goes with it. You're just taken more seriously. You've got status. You've got place. It's just the way. It's the obvious path to buying. It is not the road less traveled. It's the road everybody fucking travels. If you can get on it, because it's already looked on. Oh, you got into Michigan. You must be a good writer. There's no way you have gone there if you weren't a fucking great writer. It's Michigan. It's second rated, according to Poets and Writers magazine. Or Iowa. Everybody who's a great writer goes to fucking Iowa. And it's just like, I just don't think that's how it should be. You shouldn't. And I don't know how I'm developing as a person. I know that the New York school and that aesthetic became more or less the aesthetic that I was trying to write into. And it is markedly different, I would say, than the MFA style as it occurs, I would say, throughout most of this country. New York, in fact, Long Island University was probably the one fucking place I could have gone. I mean, where does Anselm Berrigan teach? Bard? I guess that might be cool. But other than that, it's the Poetry Project. And even that, like, they've changed their... the Stacy Samazic era, that was kind of... not an encore, but a nice kind of comprehensive survey of New York school, let's say, poetics. And all of those people came to the church, and that was the focus. Now it's more about exploring possible alternative lineages and also just what's happening exactly right now. And I think that's what I want to learn now that I'm actually able to participate and I'm actually like here in the present moment. But still, aesthetically and stylistically, I think the tools I have, even at this point, even though my education has been totally bastardized and butchered, and I would say the thing that makes me different than I was, and maybe than other writers that I see and read, is like these techniques, and just the permission that various writers in the New York school give you because of what they say poetry can be. And it feels much more contemporary to me. Formally, content-wise, the perception, the mode of perception feels like what is actually happening. And it also feels like the coolest, most fun, best art, to be honest. I just find, I mean, maybe this is my own failure of sincerity. Like a few years, I don't know what I mean, the poetry went out of my poetry. For some reason, anything that like really tries to be serious in that way and like deliberate and patient and delayed, and I don't know. I'm not interested. I like people that talk to me in colloquial kind of terms, culturally, that, and I find that in the New York school primarily. I think the language poetry stuff is kind of an off branch of that, and it's just not as rich, to be honest. The New York school, what is great about it is about life, and it has life in it. And that's not to say language poetry doesn't, but language poetry is more obscure, I think, and it's more about the language specifically. It's kind of taken to that extreme. I mean, Ted Berrigan is absolutely about the language and the surface, but it's also about surface in the same way paint is. I don't really feel that with language. I don't feel paint. I don't feel color and as much. So who knows, man? I'd like to just get wildly famous and successful and not have to. I mean, what would I think about then? Right now, my whole show is just about like reasoning why things that I fail at are wrong. If I became suddenly super respected, popular, if the world fixed itself, I guess I just talk about flowers.